security guards are well-trained professionals with a track record of getting results and serving exactly your needs. Morrison Security personnel are constantly trained for readiness and are prepared for any given situation that can occur at a job site.
Morrison means more.
More reliability of management for quick and effective solutions at your property. Morrison Security is responsive. They're always available to you.
Morrison means more.
More awareness of any challenges you face with protecting people, property, and assets. For armed and unarmed security, don't settle for substandard or average. Security is too important. Contact them and find out how you can get more. MorrisonSecurity.com. MorrisonSecurity.com.
Morrison means more.
Are you looking for fair news coverage out of the nation's capital? Join the Center Square's Editor-in-Chief Dan McCaleb and DC Bureau Chief Casey Harper as they discuss all things coming out of Washington, D.C.
And as you said, I did a fact check on this because I really found it pretty misleading. Gas prices, yes, are down. But if you look at food prices, they increased.
No spin, just the news. Listen to the America in Focus podcast at americastalking.com or wherever you get your podcast.
Raj Shah, host of Unleash Your Wealth.
You know, there are a lot of clients and people coming in from the radio into our office saying, I don't want to lose any money. I need to protect the money I have saved over the last 20 or 30 years, where you have strategies where you can structure an income stream where it has an inflation protection so that as inflation, if it continues to go up, your income will go up.
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. BLM Brandon, he's the mayor of Chicago, don't you know? He had a busy day yesterday rationalizing violence. First, it was casting the deciding vote on this ceasefire resolution to express the city's support for Hamas terrorists. So that was a big moment for BLM Brandon. And then a little bit later in the day, he had to go over to Senn High School and rationalize away the street violence that policies he supports has exacerbated after another CPS student was gunned down outside of high school.
Yeah, it was actually 3 students. They were walking home, right, broad daylight, right in front of the high school. They get out at about, they have later dismissal than average CPS schools. They get out about 3:30. And guys jumped out of a car and ambushed these 3 kids. One's dead, one's in critical condition, the other one got shot in the leg.
Right.
And
one got gunned down, 3 were shot, as I said.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, I was giving a little more detail, but yes, they and Brandon Johnson showed up, and I would love to play the audio for you, but it's not on the board here. But
yeah,
basically,
here's Brandon Johnson at the crime scene.
The loss of life is horrific under all circumstances, but it is especially harsh when our young people are targeted.
Yeah, except in the womb, right? BLM Brandon. And he went on to talk. I mean, this is a bizarre sort of statement he makes at the scene in response to 1 kid dead and 2 others shot.
We're not going to allow these acts of terror to disrupt our livelihoods. My children will be in school tomorrow, and children across this city will be in schools tomorrow. And we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that our young people are safe.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line 64636, type in DA, then a quick comment. Well, somebody asked him, do you feel safe sending your kids to school? That's why his answer was all, I'm going to send my kids to school. But you know what? We need police presence. That's what we need right now, because we've had, the shooting at Innovation High School. And then the one, it's been less than a week. We've had 3 kids shot.
I don't think it's a big
fatally.
deal. It's not a big deal because, as I've been told, as we all have been told, violence is on the wane in Chicago. Everything is, the policies are working. That's what both Jelly Belly and BLM Brandon said at year's end, celebrating a modest reduction in homicides, even though other violent crimes had spiked year over year. And the modest decline in homicides, again, was off 30-year highs. But that context does not matter because the policies are working, violence is going down, and you just have to give them more time to work. That's all.
Yeah,
right?
They make these declarative statements. He said yesterday, we need to come together as a community to stop this. What the hell does that even mean? I mean, my God, Ascend High School, they had a shooting back in 2022, December 15th. This kid, John O'Neill, was killed. And it's kids that I know knew him, and they were devastated. And then this happened. And I have seen firsthand that Dean Walsh at Ascend High School, walk kids, because we have a good relationship with them. We're like sister schools. But when I roll up, for a game or a scrimmage or whatever, I see him personally walking kids to their bus stops to make sure that they get home or try to get home safely. And they're trying, and it's not working. And it makes me, and I don't know, and they said today they're going to have more police presence, at the start of school and at the end of school.
Right. How are you going to do that across a couple hundred high schools?
That's the first thing I said to Dan. How's that going to happen?
By the way, in both of these high school shootings, the kids were targeted.
Right.
So, is anybody interested in what the kids were involved in? Or they were targeted for no reason? Well, targeted means specifics, not random.
Right.
So what were they doing? Does anybody want to have that conversation? No, nobody does. So fine. I'm fine with it. Everything's fine. It's working. The people that we put in charge are getting the job done. Things are going well. It's going to take time. We're going to break a few eggs, and don't make a big deal about it. Okay. Good enough for me. Bill and Glen Ellen, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
These dead kids are a direct result of the Democrat Party policy. I mean, there's no way to get around that. There are no cash bail and everything. When they find these shooters, if they ever do, odds are they won't. They'll find out that these guys have been arrested over and over and over again and released by Democrat Party prosecutors facing Democrat Party judges who gave them no cash bail, let them walk, or big bargained down the gun charges, which would have put them in jail for years. But because they dropped the gun charges, they walked. And until people stop voting for these Democrats, this is going to continue to happen. So where can our sympathy be when people continuously walk into the voting booth and vote for this to happen year after year after? I mean, the Democrats have been in charge of Chicago since 1931. And how is that fair for, like, the black community in Chicago?
Well, again, I think, thanks for the call, Bill. I think we're still in the probationary period for Democrat socialist domination of Chicago. So, yeah, I know it's been almost 100 years, but, again, I say give it time. The policies are working. Violence is on the wane. Trust in the people that you put in office. Right? What more is there to say? Tom in Deer Park.
Dan and Amy, good morning. I have a question. Dan, when do you think the streets are going to feel the impact of the Cardinal Supich / J.B. Pritzker ban on modern sport rifles, so-called?
Tom, did Tom cut out? All right, thanks for the call. I got the point. When are we going to see the positive impacts of the Supich, Pritzker, Johnson, Welch, Harmon assault weapon ban? The so-called the assault weapons, the ban on some scary-looking semi-auto rifles, while other semi-auto rifles that are less scary-looking are not banned, while other semi-automatic handguns. Yeah, you get the point. We got enough gun owners in our audience. I think they get the point. Yeah, right. When is that going? When are the fruits of that important legislation? Keeping kids safe. I remember Jelly Belly up in Highland Park after the horrific 4th of July massacre up there. And this was the work product of it, is the ban on some semi-automatic rifles. And so, again, they tell me it's working, Tom and others. So I'm just going to have to take them at their word. And I'm sure if you asked Jelly Belly and BLM Brandon, they would say, well, the reductions, what's working are things like the assault weapon ban. And so that's why we saw that modest decline in homicides last year. So again, these are, I'm going to do that. Let's all do the dance together. These are terrible incidents, and our hearts go out to the families, and let's have a vigil, and let's, keep our kids safe, and let's come together as a community, as you said, Amy, as Beal and Brandon say, always come together as a community. Maybe make up some novelty T-shirts to commemorate the lost lives. I mean, is this being callous, or is this what we're told? So I'm just repeating back what the response is from your political leaders for, I don't know, the last half a dozen mayors at least.
I think we need to start with the gangbangers, because, I'm looking into the social media history of 16-year-old Davion Gibson. He was the one that was killed yesterday, and then the 2 kids at Innovations. And, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going around out there. No one's,
What does that mean? There's a lot of stuff going around out there, like suggestions that they were involved in gangs?
Yes. And, flashing arms on social media, and, it's just disgusting behavior. And why don't we police that first and take the cops know who these kids are. They know what they're doing on social media.
Well, so what do you want them to do?
I don't know.
Pre-arrest, pre-crime? Are we Minority Report? No, you can't do it. So,
no, we have to have a free speech. I know that, but they're minors waving around weapons.
Yeah, no. These are all not speaking ill of the dead, but let's be real. These are all honor students. They were turning their lives around. The shooters, the victims, right? They were all honor students. Baby boys that were gunned down senselessly. Except, what do we know about them? We can't talk about the stuff. We can't talk about that. It's working, and everything's fine. Just, again, don't ask questions. Offer the same empty sentiment that you heard from BLM Brandon. And, as he said so eloquently, we're not going to let this interrupt our livelihoods. Let's get back to business, folks.
When COVID, that's all they did was interrupt our livelihoods. But this isn't going to interrupt our livelihoods? Okay.
Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
If you're tired of being overweight, trying yo-yo diets and exercise but never seeing results, pay special attention to the unique 60-day program at Solutions for Weight Loss with Dr. Miriam McParland. Dr. Miriam, why do people who have failed before lose weight on your 60-day program?
It's a doctor-supervised, holistic approach, no calorie counting, no grueling workouts. It won't interfere with any medications either.
And you can eat most foods and still lose weight?
Absolutely. We coach on how to eat nourishing food and assist in the weight loss process with natural lipotropic drops that help stimulate and reset the metabolism and control their appetite while increasing the fat-burning process.
How much weight will the average person lose?
Between 20 to 40 pounds in 30 to 60 days.
Wow. Start the program in person or virtually. Book your free consultation. Call 708-778-3050. The first 15 callers today get $300 off the 60-day program. Space is limited. Call now, 708-778-3050.
You are a creator. You've been inspired to design and craft incredible works of art. But nothing derails you like not having the right materials you need to get the project done. K&S Precision Metals prides itself on having the right metal pieces for you to be a maker. With a huge array of metal products for every part of your project, from beginning design to the finished product, K&S Precision Metals provides brass, aluminum, copper, stainless steel tubing, wire, and more. K&S Precision Metals only supplies the highest quality metal items. Each piece is pure metal with no lead or fillers. You can feel good that your project is made with metal manufactured right here in the USA. K&S Precision Metals are used by the medical and movie industries, artists, crafters, engineers, and educators. Family owned and operated in Chicago for over 76 years. Most orders are shipped within a day. Order direct at ksmetals.com. That's ksmetals.com. K&S Precision Metals. Our materials, your creations.
Have you been struggling to find an easy, safe, and secure document scanning solution for Salesforce.com, Microsoft 365, SharePoint, or OnBase by Highland? Your struggle is now over, and it's time to get your documents and operations into the 21st century. With IoT Smart Connected Scanning, it's easy to turn physical paper into digital documents and have them directly uploaded to the cloud with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. And you don't need a degree in computing or IT to make it happen. Using QR code technology uniquely configured for your specific business, anyone can set the IoT Smart Connected Scanning device up in 5 minutes or less, saving your organization money and valuable time. Remote employees can even capture documents and send them safely and seamlessly. Organize documents efficiently and securely with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. To see a demo or to order now, go to ready4idt.com. That's ready4idt.com. Use promo code SMART and receive 10% off your order. IDT, putting paper in its place.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
We got to get to that other business that BLM Brandon got back to yesterday, and that is a resolution the city council passed with his tie-breaking vote in support of Hamas terrorists. 538.
City council is telling Israel they can't defend themselves. That's laughable. And later, Governor Hochul uses the D word in reference to those 5 illegal thugs who beat up 2 cops. We'll explain. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
532, 35 degrees in Chicago. And 3 have been killed, 9 others badly hurt in the collapse of a hangar under construction on the grounds of the airport in Boise, Idaho. The city saying late last night 5 of those injured are in critical condition. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg apologizing to the parents of children harmed by social media.
No one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered.
He issued the formal, direct apology when called on to do so during a Senate hearing about online child safety Wednesday, where South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham said something needs to be done.
But the dark side hasn't been dealt with. It's now time to deal with the dark side because people have taken your idea and they've turned it into a nightmare for the American people.
After allegedly taking to YouTube to show he beheaded his father, a Pennsylvania man is now being charged with murder. Police believe Justin Moen beheaded his 68-year-old father, Michael Moen, at his home, complaining about the government and calling his father a traitor. A $78 billion tax package, including an expanded child tax credit, has passed the House. It will now head to the Senate. Its path there is far from clear. A man is behind bars this morning on suspicion of running onto a runway at LAX. When people saw someone running, planes were halted near the west gates at the Bradley International Terminal. Well, if you're making plans for spring break, you might want to pump the brakes. Miami Beach City Commission is saying they're going to vote to impose a midnight curfew, limit beach entry, and add security checkpoints to beaches next month. Chicago police continue their investigation after another Chicago public school students was shot at and 1 killed in a shooting on the north side.
There's a vehicle that pulled up. Several individuals got out of that vehicle and fired weapons in the direction of these individuals, striking all 3.
CPD Superintendent Larry Snelling, Davion Gibson was hit in the chest and taken to the hospital where he later died. Another 16-year-old and a 15-year-old were hospitalized with gunshot wounds. The shooting happened about 2 blocks from Senn High School, where the teens attended school. Authorities say a traffic dispute after an accident in Dalton erupted in gunfire. 4 were taken to the hospital after being shot. Chicago is now the largest city in the country calling for a ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. City Council approving a controversial ceasefire resolution that increases the divide between the council and the city's Jewish community.
I'm voting no today because of the divisive process that I was worried was disrespectful to some of the members of those communities, but also with the disrespect among colleagues.
Alderman Scott Waguespack. Mayor Brandon Johnson cast the tie-breaking vote following heated debate. Progressives and Democrats will try again to keep former President Donald Trump off the Illinois March primary ballot, now shifting the fight to state court. The case will ultimately be resolved by action forthcoming from the U.S. Supreme Court. Chicago Tribune journalists say they're going on strike today for the first time in that paper's history. The 24-hour walkout is over cuts to wages and benefits by the paper's owner, Alden Global Capital. The Bulls have won 2 of 3. They beat the Hornets last night 117-110. Northwestern gave number 2 Purdue all they could handle in regulation, but lost in overtime 105-96 at Mackey Arena. In other college basketball news, Bradley beat Northern Iowa, UIC lost to Evansville, and Valparaiso was upended by Drake. The news, a service of the AM 560 store. T-shirts, hoodies, and more from your favorite AM 560 brands, including Proft University. And a check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
Make sure that you never miss a day of Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson when you subscribe to the Chicago's Morning Answer podcast, presented by Signature Bank. Listen to the entire show each day on demand with limited commercial breaks. You can subscribe today for free at 560theanswer.com and click on podcasts or search for Chicago's Morning Answer on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
50 years of precision tooling. Now that's a lot of job shop work and custom parts. And it's why Bruscher Machining is the go-to CNC turning and machining company in Chicagoland. If you have a custom project, whether it's a single prototype or a short-run production of a few thousand pieces, give them a call today for your free custom quote, 630-876-1661. Or visit BruscherMachining.com. That's BRUCHER Machining.com. They also provide heat treating, balancing, plating, and surface coating, welding, and fabrication, plus project management. Bruscher Machining guarantees to consistently deliver high-quality parts and solutions on time for reasonable prices. Yeah, everyone says that, but the proof is in the tooling. Stop by to meet their team of seasoned pros and tour the facility located in West Chicago. To learn more about how CNC machining can turn your tough project into an operational reality, contact Bruscher Machining today for your free custom quote, 630-876-1661.
Attention business owners and anyone who makes some marketing decisions for your company. Amy Jacobson here. It's a new year, and what are you doing to jumpstart your business and reach new customers? If you do the same thing you did in 2023, then you should expect the same results. But we have some good news. We still have opportunities for you to become a Food for the Poor business benefactor. Make a one-time tax-deductible donation of $2,500, and AM 560 will give you 40 one-minute commercials to air right here on this radio station. That gift will feed more than 60 children in Latin America and the Caribbean for an entire year. And you'll reach a new audience of potential customers. Don't wait. Call Anjanette Natowski right now, 847-472-8951. That's 847-472-8951. Or visit 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor.
At Insurance Concierge, our family-operated agency provides in-person assistance with all your insurance needs: auto, home, life, health, financial, and Medicare planning. As independent agents, we represent multiple insurance companies, providing unbiased plan reviews at no cost to you. Whether you are new to Medicare or currently enrolled in a plan, experienced agents will assist you in navigating your options, answering your questions, and finding a plan to fit your specific health and prescription needs. Medicare is our focus all year long, so we will be available when you have questions. You can reach us at 815-714-0909. Insurance Concierge agents are also available to assist you with auto, home, life, health, and financial planning. Let our experienced family of Insurance Concierge agents assist you with your insurance needs. We treat you as part of our own family. Our office is located in the Ovation Center in Romeoville. Call 815-714-0909 to schedule a no-cost, no-obligation appointment. That number again is 815-714-0909.
Don't let a cold, sinus infection, or allergies ruin your day. Breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier with Navage. Visit Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, or a store near you.
540 on AM 560, The Answer. Let's get an update in the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. You've got delays on I-57 outbound. The off-ramp to Halstead is closed until 6 this morning. And road work on I-80 westbound at Shepley. A right lane closed until 6. 8094, report of an accident on the left side of the exit ramp. The off-ramp to Klein Avenue is impacted. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. In our QC Kinetics Weather Center, clouds and sun, a high near 50, low clouds 35 overnight, a high of 40 tomorrow. 35 and clear at O'Hare, 37 in clear skies at Midway. Your next news update is at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So, I hope everybody is donning their symbolic keffiyeh and ululating along with protesters this week because your voices were heard.
Yay! We did it. How are we going to celebrate, Dan?
Chicago City Council passing a symbolic resolution in support of Hamas terrorists yesterday. Professional courtesy, I suppose. The tie-breaking vote for the resolution cast by BLM Brandon. Earlier in the week, remember there was this CPS student walkout. Right. Many of them wound up at City Hall where they had a nice little drum circle session.
Biden, Biden, you can't hide. I know who Biden is.
I mean, who could argue with such a persuasive case as they made at City Hall? And apparently, half of the city council plus a mayor could not argue because that's how the resolution was passed. And there were some tears. It was emotional. Italian-American bigot, alderhuman Rosanna Dana, she had this to say.
Alderwoman Rosanna Rodriguez, overcome with emotion.
We are a city council, but we also know that what we say here in Chicago matters.
Oh, it sure does.
It did. She's so proud.
I feel very proud of Chicago because I think that our voice is really important in the national political landscape. We are a progressive city.
Yeah, there's no question about it.
Yeah, any word from Benjamin Netanyahu this morning if Israel's going to stand down and they're going to stop defending themselves?
Right. By the way, whatever happened that the Italian-American heritage group that was supposedly going to get the Columbus statue back and do all sorts of other things, spent a lot of time talking about how The Sopranos should be taken off the air because it paints a caricature of Italian-Americans. And yet when you have alder earthling like Rosanna Dana there, who says the greatest accomplishment of the Italian people is the invention of the cannoli, I didn't hear a word from them.
Oh, that's right. She's so ugh. And it's Rosanna Rodriguez Sanchez.
Yeah.
But I like Rosanna Dana. That's nice.
Nice rolling of the R's.
Thank you.
Alder earthling Deborah Silverstein got introduced to the party to which she affiliates, and her husband, former state senator Ira Silverstein. Welcome to your party, Alderman Silverstein.
We should not pass a resolution unless it makes clear that Hamas cannot and should not attack again.
Aren't you cute?
She's the only Jewish alderperson.
Aren't you cute?
Yeah, my favorite is Jessie Fuentes. Do you know who she is? This is why we're doing this, Dan, okay? It's about the children.
The purpose of today is to let our Palestinian constituency, our siblings, know that Chicago stands with them, that they matter.
Okay. Right, I know. Chicago stands with Hamas terrorists and other supporters of Hamas. So Chicago is thrown in with supporters of a terrorist organization that committed the worst atrocity against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. I get it. I'm persuaded. Thank you, Alder Earthlings, who supported and explained your position. I appreciate the transparency. It's very helpful. Very, very helpful. Yonam Cohen, who we've had on the show several times before, he's the general counsel for the Israel in the Midwest. He had this to say about the resolution.
This resolution would not have an impact in the Middle East. This resolution would just grow more divide among communities in the city of Chicago and provoke more anti-Semitism in the city.
No. He must not have heard. The community is together. These Alder Earthlings, along with BLM Brandon, have brought the community together to stop violence, together to eradicate hate. Don't you feel the togetherness, or is it just me?
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line 64636, type in DA, then a quick comment.
You know what I would do? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, instead of voting yesterday for a ceasefire in Gaza, and this is not cliche, they should have voted for a ceasefire on the streets of Chicago.
Well, what is that going to do?
I don't know, but what's the ceasefire in Gaza going to do?
Nothing.
They're
equally they're equally irrelevant. But so is the city council.
I know.
The city council's irrelevant too.
They're so embarrassed. I mean, it's embarrassing.
I think we're well beyond the stage of being embarrassed. I mean, we're again, as we were talking about with the situation of violence and the shootings outside Senn High School before Mike Scott's newscast. Look, this is a time for blind faith in your leadership. It's not a time to ask a lot of uncomfortable questions. It's not a time to challenge authority, except to do what the mob wants, like those protesters who shut down Lakeshore Drive, who were at City Hall, who walked out of CPS. That is, we are not to question them. We are to throw in with them. Your leaders, in quotation marks, have, so why shouldn't we as well? Here's what I would do if I was one of the Alder humans who voted against this resolution. If I was one of the 2 or 3 Alder humans who had, some common sense, lived generally speaking on this planet, 2 feet planted.
Right.
There was a measure that was taken up by the House in D.C. It was to prohibit the admission into this country of aliens who carried out, participated in, planned, financed, supported, or otherwise facilitated attacks against Israel. So anybody who was a material participant in the October 7th terrorist attack committed by Hamas, like the United Nations, anybody who is a participant cannot gain admission to the United States. It's straightforward. I mean, I can read you the language. It's black letter, straightforward. It is not confusing. Now, of course, it's almost basically it takes the power of a resolution. Since we have open borders, there's no real way to enforce this because there's nobody in charge interested in enforcing it. But the sentiment of the legislation. So why should somebody, one of the few commonsensical aldermen, why should they take this measure up and it proposed in the city council? Because it'd be really interesting to see who wouldn't sign on. There were 2 members of the House who voted against that. They voted against a measure that would prohibit Hamas terrorists and Hamas collaborators from gaining entrance into this country. 2 members of the Socialist Spice Girls, unsurprisingly. Rashida Tlaib and Cori Bush. So if Rashida Tlaib and Cori Bush voted against this measure, I can bet that some of those Alder Earthlings you just heard from, Rosanna Dana, Fuentes, others, I can guarantee you they would not sign on. And that would be a moment. Flip the script on them. Why our side never is thinks about these opportunities to jujitsu the inanity that emanates from the new Marxists. But flip the script and present that for consideration. I'm sure Deborah Silverstein would sign on. Maybe she wouldn't. Maybe she's so ideologically wrapped in sanctuary city designation that she couldn't do that either. We couldn't. They can't bring themselves to say terrorist plotters and murderers should not gain entrance into this country. I would love to impose that litmus test on the Chicago City Council. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be. I mean, maybe Alderman Lopez would do it. Yesterday he stood up. He said, "You don't care about 50,000 Catholics who were killed in Nigeria. Other people are getting killed in conflicts around the world." But then Scott Waspak, who I thought was, yeah, I know I butcher his name, but I've been doing it successfully for.
Just come up with a nickname, Wags. Call him
right,
Scotty Wags.
Wagyu, like Wagyu meat, Wagyu.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of Wagyu, I don't know if you know, maybe we'll get to it later. There's a high school in Kansas that is now serving Wagyu beef on the cafeteria menu.
Yeah, and I applied to be their varsity volleyball coach. Are you kidding me?
Really?
That's great. I love Wagyu. It's so expensive. But anyway, back to Scott Wagyu.
Yeah.
This is, and I want to get your reaction, Jan. This was his reason for voting no.
I'm voting no today because of the divisive process that I was worried was disrespectful to some of the members of those communities, but also with the disrespect among colleagues.
So he's not voting because of the issue. He's voting against the process.
Yeah,
what a mealy way out. I mean,
I agree with you. Yes, that was mealy-mouthed and pathetic. But I mean, again, mealy-mouthed and pathetic, those adjectives are synonymous with Chicago City Council. So I can't generate much surprise. Let's see here. Oh, Philip in Blue Island, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Boy.
I'm listening to like South Africa and the United Nations. And
South Africa.
The city council.
South Africa. Wait, the South Africa that's governed by the Communist Party. That's South Africa.
You label it any way you want to.
Well, I'm not labeling it. I'm describing reality. But okay, go ahead. All right, South Africa. You're listening to the UN. The UN that had that relief agency that we provide funding to have to fire, what was it, 14 people because they were material participants in the Hamas terrorist attack on October 7th. That UN? Okay, I got it. That's South Africa and that UN. Got it. And I just wanted to set the foundation. Now go ahead, Philip.
Okay, and then like the city council, and I was hearing this video about, I guess it was the Florida State House, and the representative was saying how many Palestinians have to die, and then one Republican says kill them all. So again, and then your argument is that everybody is in support of Hamas.
No, I'm not saying everybody is. I'm saying that 23 city councilmen and the mayor are supporting Hamas. But go ahead.
Okay, so, but again, if I was to listen just blatantly to your argument, or completely to your argument, it just seems like everybody is in support of Hamas, and you know that's not true. I think most people are in horror of what we're seeing happening to babies. And this representative in Florida said that 1-year-olds.
I don't know the representative in Florida. I'm not stipulating that you're describing it correctly. How about focus on something we do know, the Chicago City Council, and make your argument about the 23 plus the mayor who voted for that resolution. Why don't we stick with that?
And then all of even the children themselves know when they walk out of school and go to city halls all over the United States, when people are protesting all over the world in support of, not in support of genocide, but and not even against Israel, because there's so many factions, there's so many fights going on inside of Israel against Benjamin Netanyahu itself.
So you would have been a yes vote for the resolution, would you, Philip?
For a ceasefire, of course, 100%.
Oh,
why not you?
100%. Well, I mean, I have you. Do you listen to the
Israel
show?
has a right to defend themselves.
You listen to the show. What does a ceasefire? What does a ceasefire mean? What does it mean? What's the implication of it?
Okay.
Why don't you repeat? From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. While you're at it, what does it mean?
From the river to the sea. If Israel was to say that, and as in the midst of them demolishing Gaza, right? In the midst
demolishing Gaza. I'm sorry, Israel didn't have control over Gaza. They relinquished control some time ago, right? I mean, it was the Palestinian Authority that's in charge of Gaza. The Palestinian Authority is in charge of Gaza.
So much smarter. You are so much more.
It's not. The Palestinian Authority was not in charge. Was not the governing organization in Gaza.
You know that Israel controlled everything in Gaza, especially coming in and out.
Apparently not. I think October 7th sort of gave lie to that, didn't it, Philip? Thanks for the call. Pleasure as always. The ceasefire, all this, stop genocide. It's the typical. I mean, and somebody like Philip, of course, is buffaloed by this because he wants to be. It is the typical sanitized sloganeering that belies the underlying substance of the position.
Right. And people without God need something else. So COVID's over, so now we have this.
Well okay. But the position of ceasefire now, as we've talked about from the beginning of the response to the terrorist attack, is let Hamas get away with it. Give Hamas time to regroup. Give Hamas leaders time to flee. Don't hold Hamas accountable. They murder 1,400 Israelis attending a concert, and the response should be give them a pass. Maybe if at some point you can catch up with a couple of the orchestrators and the Hamas leaders, then you can prosecute them in a court of law. Maybe have them do some sort of alternative dispute resolution where they have to do 40 hours of community service. I mean, that's sort of the attitude. I'm of course being hyperbolic, but that's the attitude, and it's certainly the attitude of these mindless ceasefire jihadists in our midst. George in Naperville.
How about this sign for city residents? I stand with Sin City, Chirac.
All right, George. Phil in Maryville.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, maybe you could help me out. What is this resolution doing besides wasting taxpayer dollars? Because how is this going to affect anything overseas whatsoever? Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the call, Phil. It's not, but I mean, what would the city council do if they weren't wasting taxpayer dollars? That's what they do.
I mean, they've been discussing this for months, and they've had to cancel city council meeting after meeting because of all the protesters that were there. Even yesterday, when they voted for what the protesters wanted, they still wouldn't shut up. They had to kick them out, and then they recessed for an hour.
Whatever.
I mean, come on.
Whatever. I mean, this is just entertainment. But that's what we want. It's fine.
Spinning our wheels.
You want the Carlos Ramirez Rosa to give a little shoulder shiver to some elderly human, and this whole fight that, as you said, has been rolling for a couple of months till we get to this historic point, and everybody's yelling and screaming, and then we're supposed to, weigh in on this like it's important, and these people are serious, and something is getting done, and I mean, come on. Thank you, Alderhuman, for voting for it. Thank you, Alderhuman, for not voting for it. And what? I mean, honestly, the city. But hey, blind faith. Be more like Philip from Blue Island. Blind faith, people.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 6:06, Mark Zuckerberg offers an apology in the middle of a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing. That's 6:06.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
After another CPS shooting was shot and killed, this time on the north side. Authorities say a traffic dispute ended in an accident in Dalton.
It'll be done in waves. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The U.S. retaliation the president already decided on to hit the Iran-backed militants who attacked the U.S. base in Jordan, killing 3 American soldiers.
But even President Biden has questioned if whatever he has in store will be strong enough to deter future threats. And Iran's military chief is saying pretty much bring it on. Here's that quote. We do not leave any threats unanswered. While we are not looking for war, we are not afraid of war, and we do not run run away from it.
Fox's Jackie Heinrich at the White House. The U.S. has hit other Iran-backed militants again as the Houthis keep targeting ships in and around the Red Sea.
Overnight, U.S. Navy Super Hornets launched airstrikes to destroy 10 rebel drones from Iran's rebel army in Yemen. Earlier, USS Carney shot down a ballistic missile using a $5 million interceptor, and one enemy cruise missile got within a mile of the guided missile destroyer USS Gravely, shot down using the ship's close-in weapon systems.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson. But the danger Iran poses in the Middle East as the war keeps raging in Gaza is not the biggest one the U.S. faces. The FBI Director Christopher Wray told a House hearing,
China's multi-pronged assault on our national and economic security make it the defining threat of our generation.
He says Chinese hackers keep targeting U.S. infrastructure from power and water to transportation. European leaders have just agreed to help Ukraine some more in the war against Russia, approving another $54 billion aid package as new U.S. military assistance for Ukraine remains held up in Congress in a dispute over U.S. border security. Last night, the House approved a $79 billion tax cut bill that will increase the child tax credit. A deadly accident in Boise, Idaho at a hangar being built at the airport.
This structure collapsed and it did impact the crane, and so the crane is collapsed as well.
Boise Fire Division Chief Aaron Hummel, 3 people were killed. America's listening to Fox News.
6:02 on AM 560, The Answer. Clear skies, 35 degrees, and here are the top stories we're following on WIND Chicago. Chicago police are investigating after another CPS student was shot and killed, this time on the north side.
There's a vehicle that pulled up. Several individuals got out of that vehicle and fired weapons in the direction of these individuals, striking all 3.
CPD Superintendent Larry Snelling saying 3 teen boys were walking yesterday in the 1200 block of West Thorndale Avenue.
We are going to have special attention around all the schools. So across the districts, across the entire city, we will make sure that we have a police presence at dismissal and at the time that students are arriving at school.
Chicago police tell us Davion Gibson was struck in the chest and taken to the hospital where the 16-year-old later died. Another 16-year-old and a 15-year-old remain hospitalized with gunshot wounds. The CPS, it comes less than a week after 2 other CPS students were shot and killed after leaving their high school in the Loop. Authorities say a traffic dispute after an accident in Dalton erupted into gunfire. 4 were taken to the hospital after being shot. Chicago, now the largest city in the country, calling for a ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas terrorists in Gaza. Mayor Brandon Johnson cast the tie-breaking vote following heated debate yesterday.
I will exercise my vote and my right, and I vote aye.
Critics and even backers of the largely meaningless resolution believe it doesn't lay out plans for preventing Hamas from committing another deadly attack against Israel. In an update to a story we told you about yesterday, an Illinois lawmaker is putting the brakes on a proposed bill that would limit police from pulling over drivers. State Representative Justin Slaughter introduced the bill Monday that would ban law enforcement from stopping drivers for several traffic offenses, including speeding, improper lane usage, an expired sticker, or excessive window tint. However, after pushback in the General Assembly, Chicago Democrat told reporters he doesn't plan to move for a vote on the bill. The Bulls have won 2 of 3 after a win over the Hornets, 117-110. Big Ten hoops, Northwestern gave number 2 Purdue another scare, this time losing in overtime, 105-96 at Mackey Arena. 6:04 is our time. We'll have a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
If you listen to the mainstream media and the Democrats, you'd think it was a sin to be black and conservative. Well, John Anthony blows up that perception every week on Black and Right. Join John this Saturday afternoon at 4 when he pushes back against the left and its regressive, progressive agenda that tries to dictate how people should think or feel about politics. Listen to Black and Right this Saturday afternoon at 4 right here on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, the social engineering and leftist corporations, do they make you feel like we're kind of living in the Twilight Zone? Well, you're not alone. Now, our friends at Pure Talk, my wireless company, they know the silent majority is fed up, and I'm calling on all of those Americans, stand with a company that champions your values. The average family is saving almost $1,000 a year. Dial pound 250, say the keyword save now. Do it now. You'll save an additional 50% off your first month from our friends at Pure Talk.
If you have a bank account, pay attention. Your savings could be at risk. The U.S. banking system is once again under extreme stress. This jeopardizes you and your family. But there is an easy way to protect yourself. Gold. Contact Noble Gold Investments today and safeguard your family's financial future. As a thank you for opening a qualified account, they'll give you a free quarter-ounce gold standard coin. Visit NobleGoldInvestments.com. NobleGoldInvestments.com. Gold. Safety for uncertain times.
Do you know that high blood pressure is the #1 risk factor for mortality? In fact, 1 in 2 adults have high blood pressure. That's a 50-50 chance you're a walking time bomb. But you, not Big Pharma, can take control of your blood pressure before it's too late with my friends at 120 Life. 120 Life is a blend of great-tasting superfruit juices that actually help lower your blood pressure. It's formulated with ingredients that have been shown to naturally control high blood pressure and are endorsed by thousands of health professionals. You can try it for yourself risk-free with their 2-week trial pack. Go to 120life.com and use the code NEWYEAR to save 20% and receive free shipping. They are so sure that 120 Life can noticeably lower your blood pressure in 2 weeks that they'll give you your money back if you're not satisfied. So you have nothing to lose but those high blood pressure numbers. Order now at 120life.com and remember to use coupon code NEWYEAR to save 20%. This is serious. It's your life we're talking about here.
6:07. Let's check the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Bartlett this morning. Accident Dunham and Stearns. Lombard at accident St. Charles Road and Crescent. West Chicago, an accident at Joliet and Wilson. 8094, an accident on the left-hand side of the exit ramp. Right at the on the eastbound side, right at the off-ramp to Klein Avenue this morning. An earlier disabled vehicle has been yanked out of your way northbound on the Tri-State this morning. Your delay from the Hinsdale Oasis to past 47. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now, your official Chicagoland weather forecast in the AM 560 Weather Center. Here's Steve Williams.
Today, times of clouds and sun, a high today 50, cloudy tonight, low 35, and then cloudy, cooler day tomorrow, the high only 40, sunny to partly cloudy for Saturday, high Saturday at 44. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
35 and clear at O'Hare, 37 clear skies at Midway. Your next news update is at 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Facebook founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg came before the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday for the typical pillaring that a social media CEO gets to no particular effect. I mean, it's the senator's opportunity to pontificate and renew, in the case of Josh Hawley, renew calls for elimination of the Section 230 exemption for these social media platforms, which has been bandied about in D.C. for several years now, hasn't it? So the heated rhetoric came fast and furious in Mark Zuckerberg's direction, starting with Lindsey Graham.
Mr. Zuckerberg, you and the companies before us, I know you don't mean it to be so, but you have blood on your hands.
Well,
Do
he's
social
so
media
Southern tough.
Yeah. Chicken hawk, Lindsey Graham, I know. Does Mark Zuckerberg have blood on his hands? Does he owe the parents of teenagers, many of whom were in the audience of young people, and there was that moment you'll hear in just a second, and the number of parents that stood up holding up pictures of their kids I assume that's because all of those young people died one way or the other.
Yeah, mostly by suicide.
Right.
And some of them were abused. They were, child predators got to them by, via Snapchat, via Facebook, and they pretended to be other teenagers. And one was suicidal, but she survived. But her mom was still there holding up a sign of her picture saying, "You almost killed my daughter."
Mm-hmm. So this was that moment. First, Holly excoriating Zuckerberg and then asking if he'd like to apologize to the parents. And this is what he did.
37% of teenage girls between 13 and 15 were exposed to unwanted nudity in a week on Instagram. You knew about it. Who did you fire?
Senator, this is why we're building all
Who
these
did you
different
fire?
tools. I'm not going to answer that.
There's families of victims here today. Have you apologized to the victims?
No one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered. And this is why we invest so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts to make sure that no one has to go through the types of things that your families have had to suffer.
So, first of all, does Mark Zuckerberg owe those families an apology? And follow up, if he does owe them an apology, how did you find his apology? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line.
And I'd also like to throw in there, who's more insincere, KJP, when she's talking about the 3 soldiers who were killed by a drone attack, or Mark Zuckerberg? Because I
guess you think he owes them an apology, and you were not moved by his apology, is what you're saying.
Not at all. And neither was this mom whose son Riley died.
Riley died on March 30th, 2021, when he was a victim of sexploitation on Facebook's Messenger app. When he stood up, he said, "I'm sorry for your pain." But I don't really think he's sorry for my pain.
Yeah, and she didn't. A lot of the parents in the audience did not buy it. But does he owe them an apology? I mean, he has a platform where this kind of activity has been taking place. And he could throw money at it. He said he spent over $5 billion on safety and security last year. But is it working?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was sort of what I think there was some legitimate pushback from a couple of the senators on what Zuckerberg is saying he's doing and then how the platform is actually operating. For example, Ted Cruz had a poster board with this optionality on the platform, and it is rather curious that there would be the options there are on Facebook and Instagram.
These results may contain images of child sexual abuse. And then you gave users 2 choices. Get resources or see results anyway. What sane universe is there a link for see results anyway?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good question. Scenes of child sexual abuse. Would you like to get resources on child sexual abuse, or would you like to see the scenes? Why would there be that option? I think that's a good question.
Got a text message. Dan and Amy, yes, Zuckerberg should have apologized, but he set a new global benchmark for insincerity with his apology. Made me want to have 20 minutes with him in a small room with a 2x4.
Well, again, remember, I don't think Mark Zuckerberg has officially transitioned into a human boy yet. I think he's still in
he looks prepubescent, doesn't he?
Well, he also is like animatronic. There was he is without emotion, and he looks like something that was created in one of Elon Musk's labs, actually. But anyway, another good exchange again on this. Zuckerberg again. He is volunteering. The sort of does he owe an apology is a separate question. But when he's saying I'm doing these things to address some of these concerns and the user's experience, and it doesn't sound like he's accomplishing what he's saying he is doing, then that's a legitimate issue or a legitimate area of inquiry. And Mike Lee followed up on Ted Cruz.
It's restricting access to sexually explicit content, but only for teens ages 13 to 15.
My understanding is that we don't allow sexually explicit content on the service for people of any age. How
is that going?
Yeah. It doesn't sound like it's going well, and it sounds like that's a point that's conceded by all parties. So you're not allowing something that's occurring anyway. You're providing options to allow something you say isn't occurring. It's a legitimate question.
I mean, the bottom line, are social platforms going to get any safer because of this hearing yesterday?
Well, no, but I mean, what is realistic when it comes to safety? I mean, I think, again, what Lee and Cruz pointed out are legitimate areas of inquiry. I mean, that was sort of an obvious reform that could be made. But, I mean, this whole sort of addiction issue, cyberbullying, the targeting, like that one parent we heard from.
I mean, Snapchat, I know a lot of my sons, all right, I'll say this, excuse me, had access to illegal things via Snapchat.
So, right.
So you can find whatever you want on Snapchat. And the Snapchat guy, I was listening to this doofus, Evan Spiegel, his attempt at an apology.
Words cannot begin to express the profound sorrow I feel that a service we designed to bring people happiness and joy has been abused to cause harm.
Yeah, but I mean, there are things that are conceived to do one thing that people use to do something else with, that predate the internet.
Yeah,
chemicals and so forth, drugs. There are, I just want to pump the brakes a little bit, even though I find Zuckerberg generally detestable, just as it did Jack Dorsey and just as Reid Hoffman at LinkedIn, most of them. I don't like their politics, right? And I find them, yes, disingenuous and smarmy. Jack Dorsey was just weird. He was like a druid. I think he went to live in a forest when he left Twitter with his billions. But weird. But so whatever. But we need to pump the brakes on this. I'm not for shutting down social media platforms. I'm not for more government, generally speaking, more government intrusiveness and monitoring and rulemaking on the internet, just as I'm not for that in the analog or the terrestrial worlds.
Well, what about age limits to use the social media platforms?
Well, that's a good question because the Florida State House passed a bill that would ban kids 16 and under from using social media. If it became law and it withstood constitutional scrutiny, passed constitutional muster, social media platforms would be forced to implement prescriptive age verification methods for all users, including adults, and carry disclaimers that their products may be harmful. So, I mean, there's that. Do people think that's a good idea? I saw the Social Dilemma documentary that popped a few years ago, and it was very interesting in terms of, sort of Facebook insiders talking about how, the psychological manipulation behind generating more screen time for users to generate more revenue for the company. But, the studies on the causation, right, the mental health, the allegations this is resulting in a deterioration of the mental health of young people, like it's having material impact. The studies are ambiguous at this point. Some suggest there is a correlation and should be taken seriously. You heard Josh Hawley just mention that before he was demanding Mark Zuckerberg to tell him who he fired. But there are other studies, a study published in 21 in the Journal of Clinical Psychological Science that found increased technology use among adolescents not linked to a decline in mental well-being. There are others that suggest, there are some positive effects too, because of course there's social media, so they're connecting you to friends and family you can communicate with. It's a platform, so you can use it for harm, as some of these predators do. Or you can use it to stay in touch with relatives from around the country. And so, it's just a more complicated picture.
This is a great text message. Dan and Amy, maybe they were too busy working with the FBI to go after conservatives rather than care about children.
Well, yeah, I mean
there's something to that.
That's sort of the point that Hawley made on Josh Hawley made on Hannity last night.
If he would actually change his platform and not allow pedophiles and sex predators on there, he could do a service to every family in America. I'll just say this, Sean. He seems to have all the time and attention in the world to censor conservatives. Facebook leapt at the opportunity to censor any questions about COVID, to label people who had COVID vaccine questions as potential terrorists. If you question the Hunter Biden laptop, they shut you down, but yet they can't lift a finger to take sex predators off their platform. I don't buy it.
Yeah, it's the hypocrisy piece, the focus piece, yes. I think that's a legitimate point that Holly raises. But, I just have to go back to this mental health issue, because I think this is where it's material. This sexual predators, to the extent they can identify them and sideline them, you don't have a constitutional right to be on Facebook or any other social media platform. So, of course, if you see if these minders and the algorithms catch people that are engaged in predatory conduct in the direction of kids or trying to consume content that shouldn't even be on there, of course, that is exploitive of kids, then ban them, refer them to authorities, do all that. That's a legitimate request.
And they were doing that.
You don't want the social media. Your social media platform cannot turn a blind eye to criminal activity on the platform. You need to attempt to interdict it. Otherwise, at some point, you become not just an enabler, but potentially an accomplice to it. So that's legitimate. The mental health thing, though, because that's where most parents are at, right? I mean, yes, the sexual predation thing too, but the mental health thing is more of a ubiquitous charge against the social media platforms, which is what I want to get to. And these tragic cases of kids committing suicide. And so obviously you feel for the families and the parents and the friends. It's a terrible thing. And it's perhaps the worst thing because of all the unanswered questions usually when somebody does that. But, this sort of contagion has been around for a long time in terms of young people who are susceptible. I mean,
there was one kid who was bullied. I mean, he used to be bullied at school, and then that kind of stopped. But then he got bullied on social media.
Right.
And his mom was in there, and then he committed suicide.
Right.
Another girl, she thought she was talking to a teenage boy on Snapchat, and she wasn't. She sent him, nude photos, and she felt suicidal afterwards. She's like, because I really loved him, but there was no him there. It was something that, it was, so she felt bad about herself because of that.
Did anybody ever read Goethe's novel, The Sorrows of Young Werther? I just want, just some perspective on this. This novel, which was a sensation back in the late 18th century, led to what was called at the time the Werther effect. Young men committing suicide.
Okay.
The late 1700s predates the internet. And the story is about young Werther who falls in love with Charlotte, and the love is unrequited. She eventually marries Albert, an older man, and Werther is, confronted. He's confronted essentially with the idea of either murdering Albert or taking himself out, and he takes himself out because he couldn't bring himself to commit murder. So this led to a rash of, led to. I'm not saying there's causation here, but subsequent to the novel and the popularity of it, other young men, forlorn, committed suicide. They would dress like young Werther, in terms of how he was pictured, and led to suicides. So, should we, should they have banned The Sorrows of Young Werther back in the late 1700s? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
These social contagions with young people. What is all the LGBTQ identification? Where you're talking about Gen Z, upwards of 30% are on the gender gender sexual identity spectrum. I mean, come on. What society extols, what it becomes popular, there is going to be imitation, or there is going to be adoration. And so I just, the science on this, I mean, certainly causal links is a reach. So to the question of does Zuckerberg, I mean, Zuckerberg's attempt at an apology was wooden and pathetic. But as hard as it is, and as generally detestable as Zuckerberg is, I'm not sure he owes an apology to the parents. He didn't commit the acts. He is not suborning the he's not producing the content that causes young people to react in a way that is unproductive, disproportionate to the threat. They don't have the context to understand this is not a big thing in the grand scheme of things, the name calling or whatever is happening. The sexual predation is separate. I'm just talking about mental health.
Right. And if you're getting bullied online, don't go online. I mean, don't look at it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
or
right.
is it too simple of an
well, I mean, that's
answer?
part of it, but then the parental involvement too. The parental, but you're not a teeny bopper.
I know, but still, there's reasons why
Yeah, but I'm talking about the parental involvement. I'm not blaming the parents for somebody, a kid who takes their life. Something it's so much more complicated and so much of it is unknowable, usually. But I have a very difficult time, grabbing a pitchfork and a torch here for Zuckerberg or any of these other tech CEOs in the ways that are being described, because I just don't think it's clear. And I think the sort of government coming to the rescue is always dangerous. Brian in St. John, Indiana, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning. Man, I've been waiting that whole so long, I forgot what I was going to say. No, as much as I think social media is a problem, and as much as I think that, yes, they can make changes to protect people in general, no, Mark Zuckerberg does not owe anybody a forced apology. It's like everything you talk about, we talk about. It's a parent's responsibility to, monitor what their kids are looking at. And, no, Mark isn't responsible for all this stuff as much as I detest him as well as you do, but he's not responsible for an apology. That's all I got.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call, Brian. I know people want someone to blame, particularly when somebody uses a product. But I mean, think about all the other instances. I mean, I went back to the 1700s, but just think about video games. Violent video games were leading kids to be violent, but there's really not a causal link to support that claim. And as our friend Theodore Dalrymple, the retired clinical psychiatrist, reminds us all the time, to suggest that there is, then you have to explain all of the other similarly situated individuals who use video games and do so lawfully and are otherwise productive people and law-abiding people. All the people who use social media, get in fights on social media, get ridiculed on social media, and who otherwise are productive people, law-abiding, and they're perfectly well-adjusted, and they go on to live happy lives. It's just more complicated than just zeroing in on this and saying, you're responsible because I need somebody to be responsible. Dennis in Milwaukee.
Dan, Amy, I listen to you folks every day. I think you're the smartest radio in the morning, maybe all day long.
Yeah,
but this is naive. The social media, or what I like to call societal media developers, control what's amplified and what is diminished on their platforms, and they share the responsibility like we all do in society when things go bad.
Oh, well, that's fair. I mean, we were talking about the things that Zuckerberg was saying they're doing, and apparently they're not, based on the evidence that was presented by Senators Lee and Cruz in particular. So I'm not giving him a clean bill of health here. I'm just saying on the mental health piece specifically. And of course, I mean, who doesn't know that somebody is going to manipulate their product, whatever it may be, including a social media platform, for profit maximization, for the gaining and retaining customers, clients. So I mean,
Right.
I think that's a little naive too. I mean, these social media companies are for-profit companies. This just in, all these guys are multi-billionaires. So what do you think? And it's been said for 2 generations now. If you don't know what the product is, you're the product. So
Got a great text message.
So you have to go in with open eyes on this too. You can't pretend not to know stuff you should know, especially the adults.
Instead of spending $400 million on influencing an election, can't Zuckerberg spend $400 million on suicide prevention?
All right, coming up at 6:36, Karine Jean-Pierre, White House spokesperson, has a choice for House Republicans when it comes to border security. 6:36.
And later, President Biden's election season stunt will explain. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
6:31 on AM 560. The Answer. The U.S. military says it's taken out around a dozen Houthi drones in recent hours. The very latest from Fox News' Jonathan Savage.
Central Command tells us U.S. forces struck up to 10 drones the Houthis were preparing to launch in Yemen. And the USS Carney shot down 3 Iran-made drones and an anti-ship ballistic missile in the Gulf of Aden. A Houthi spokesman meanwhile claimed they'd struck an American-operated merchant ship, although Reuters reports the Koi is actually British-run. The group says its campaign against commercial vessels in the Red Sea and surrounding waters is a response to Israel's war on Hamas. The Houthis say they see all British and American ships as targets. Jonathan Savage, Fox News.
Mark Zuckerberg is apologizing to parents whose children may have been harmed by Instagram.
This is why we invest so much and are going to continue to make sure that no one has to go through the types of things that your families have had to suffer.
The Meta CEO made the apology directly to a group of parents Wednesday during a Senate hearing about online child exploitation. Illinois Democrat Dick Durbin.
Online child sexual exploitation is a crisis in America.
Zuckerberg telling the parents his company is working on efforts to make sure no one has to go through things your families have gone through. 3 are dead, 9 injured, some critically, after a building collapse in Idaho. A 39,000 square foot steel hangar under construction near the Boise airport collapsed on Wednesday. The Fed holding interest rates steady. The central bank announcing Wednesday it was keeping rates at their current levels because of improving consumer confidence, they say. A powerful storm system fueled by an atmospheric river impacting California. Flash flooding is a risk, along with high winds, power outages, and possible landslides. Chicago police are investigating after another Chicago public school student was killed, this time in a shooting on the north side.
There's a vehicle that pulled up. Several individuals got out of that vehicle and fired weapons in the direction of these individuals, striking all 3.
CPD Superintendent Larry Snelling said 3 teen boys were walking yesterday in the 1200 block of West Thorndale Avenue. Davion Gibson was hit in the chest, rushed to a nearby hospital where he later died. Mayor Brandon Johnson.
We're not going to allow these acts of terror to disrupt our livelihoods. My children will be in school tomorrow, and children across this city will be in schools tomorrow. And we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that our young people are safe.
The shooting happened about 2 blocks from Senn High School, where the teens attended. Authorities say a traffic dispute after an accident in Dalton erupted into gunfire. 4 people were taken to area hospitals after being shot. Chicago aldermen were forced to delay another vote on a discipline provision in the city's police contract. During yesterday's city council meeting, allies of Mayor Brandon Johnson used a parliamentary maneuver to push back a vote on a stipulation that would allow Chicago police officers accused of serious misconduct to have their cases decided privately as approved by an arbitrator. Afterwards, a Cook County judge then ordered all proceedings before the police board halted. A teen is dead after being stabbed to death inside an apartment building on Chicago's South Side. It happened yesterday in the hallway of a building in the 700 block of East 60th. Chicago sports found the Bulls winners again, 117-110. Kobe White with 35. Northwestern gave Purdue a scare but lost in overtime at Mackey Arena, 105-96. The news, a service of Indeed.com. New year, new hiring needs. Indeed's end-to-end solution helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all year round. Learn more by visiting Indeed.com/credit. And a check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
November 2nd, 2020, marked the 100th anniversary of the first commercial radio broadcast. We're still here, and we're bigger and better than ever. You can still listen to us over this great radio station, but now there are no limitations. Your smartphone is now your smart radio. Listen to us online on the app, TuneIn.com, iHeartRadio, and Odyssey.com. Your smart speaker can find us too. With radio, there is no separation anxiety. We're always on. AM 560, The Answer.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
It's awesome stuff. I just love the product. I am so glad I seen the commercial, went for it, and ordered me some. And then my husband said, "Have you seen that commercial of Balance of Nature?" And I looked at him and I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I think we ought to try it." And I says, "I am." And so I says, "I'll order you some." He loves it. I love it. We won't be without it.
Step into the new year with a new you. Start your journey to better health by going to balanceofnature.com and signing up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Hurry, this is your last chance to take advantage of this offer. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency on earth, and if you owe back taxes, the news isn't good. The IRS is raising the interest rate it charges on unpaid taxes, and further rate hikes are expected. Most people don't know it, but the IRS adds interest charges to your tax debts daily. So if you owe the IRS today, you'll owe even more tomorrow. And it doesn't stop until you get right with the IRS. The good news is getting right can start with one phone call to Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax relief firm. Optima's tax professionals specialize in the Fresh Start Initiative, a powerful IRS program that can save you thousands if you qualify. In fact, the experts at Optima have resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients. Call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Is your local delivery provider unreliable? Do your same-day deliveries never get there the same day? Or has your delivery service left you out in the cold this winter? Then you need to know about the Delivery Authority. We are exceptional people that deliver flawless service. We are a logistics company based in Naperville that specializes in same-day, next-day, and final-mile deliveries. At the Delivery Authority, our account managers own the entire delivery process, from the pickup to final delivery, with real-time tracking that helps assure that your freight gets there safely, in good condition, and on time. And although we are a local company, our delivery footprint extends throughout the Midwest. So if you need a trusted local partner who can provide customized delivery solutions, on-time delivery performance, and hands-on customer service, then you need to call the Delivery Authority. Call us now at 630-893-7100. That's 630-893-7100. Or visit us online at thedeliveryauthority.com. That's thedeliveryauthority.com.
6:39. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Kennedy inbound, 25 minutes already. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Eisenhower outbound, unusual delay, but there it is. Oak Park Avenue to First early on this morning. 30 minutes out to Route 390 already. Inbound Stevenson, inbound Harlem to Kedzie, 40 minutes into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Dan Ryan, 20 minutes in from 95th, and you have delays in the Express inbound between 43rd and the Stevenson. Plainfield, Will County, both east and westbound 111th is shut down between US 30 and 248th Avenue due to a bad accident reported there. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Clouds and sun, a high near 50 early in the midday, and then temperatures start to drop off around 3 or 4 in the afternoon to a low of 35 overnight. Clear skies right now, 35 at O'Hare. Your next news update is at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Just a postscript on our discussion about Zuckerberg's appearance before the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday, because I heard that Durbin clip that Mike Scott played. You know, Dick Durbin is opposed to child exploitation online. Right, of course he is, because it's unfair competition for the bricks and mortar human traffickers in K-12 government schools. That's not right. Sack of Durbin, please. Okay. KJP, Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House spokeswoman, she opened yesterday's press briefing with a speech she ostensibly penned for herself because it was that bad. It sounds like something she may have written, and she stumbled through it. Maybe she didn't write it. Maybe the speechwriter is about as talented as she is. Anyway, she has a choice for House Republicans when it comes to border security. And here it is. She's thrown down the gauntlet.
As the president and his team continue working to deliver a historic bipartisan agreement on the border, House Republicans have a choice to make. They can keep playing politics, or they can work in a bipartisan way to secure the border. Sadly, this is not new. For years, they have refused to heed the president's request for action on much-needed funding for border security. For example, in the bill the president introduced in his first day in office more than 1,000 days ago, he requested funding to develop and deploy expediting screening technology to improve our ability to catch narcotics and contraband at every port of entry. Republicans never acted on the bill. Each year in office, President Biden has requested record-breaking border security funding into law. But without exception, House Republicans have tried to stop the president from delivering the resources we need at the border. As recently as October, President Biden submitted a supplemental request for additional resources for border security. House Republicans did not take it up. Now, House Republicans are going further and signaling that they may refuse even to consider a historic bipartisan border security deal that would strengthen America's national security. Perhaps Speaker Johnson and House Republicans should reflect on what they've had to say over just the past few months. In October, Speaker Johnson said, "We must come together and address the broken border." And in November, he said, "I think we can get a bipartisan agreement on border security." But suddenly, we've heard a change of tune. One Republican member from Texas even said, why would they do anything to help President Biden? This is about helping the president. This is about helping the American people. It's not about helping the president. It's about the American people. This is about securing the border.
Oh my God.
Republicans in the Senate are working with us to do just that. Republicans in the House should as well.
Am I still hosting the show with Amy, or was she replaced by Jar Jar Binks? What were those noises you were making during?
Well, she was like, I had a very sing-song, like she's a
Yeah.
kindergarten teacher.
Yeah.
Now, kids, these are the primary colors. Now, grab your mats and your snacks, and we're going to have nappy-noopy time in the corner.
Right.
Oh,
This
my
is
God.
This is not about helping President
Oy.
Biden. Wait, this is about no. It's
This
not
is-
about.
it
It's
is.
about helping the American. No, it's
No,
about
it's
helping Biden. No. All right. So anyway, there it is. Throw in with Senate Republicans. Throw in with Jim Langford and Senate Minority Leader Freeze Frame and negotiate with us to throw some more money and some more border agents down at the border to facilitate the orderly entrance of untold millions into the country, and just provide a little bit more forum to the function of the open borders program. I know Jim Langford disputes that, but as we know, and we will restate, President Biden took some 6 executive actions with respect to the border, undoing much of what Trump did, also by executive order. And so, by definition, he has authority to reverse those executive orders and do some of the things that Trump did by executive order, but he won't do that. So the posture of the Democrats is they think
lie.
and they think that we can hang the House Republicans on this this cross of bipartisanship. Which is a magic word. I think politicians think bipartisan. Look how constructive I am. I'm governing. But it's blather. And I think if House Republicans continue to call them out on it, and I think if House Republicans would get even a little bit more strident, then it would do them well, both in terms of the electoral outcomes in November, as well as extracting something that is real from this White House, depending on how much political punishment they seek to take.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You could also reach us on our text line, 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment.
Kurt in Lamont, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, hi, Dan and Amy. Thanks for taking the call. So just a quick comment on your previous section. I think people have to be very careful with this sort of, it looked a bit stage managed last night, and it could be teeing up a repetition of the online safety bill that was passed in the UK, the purpose of which was to squelch dissenting views.
Yeah, right.
So people just have to be very careful about that.
Agreed.
And then regarding the border, whatever your position is, you have to see at this point that it's an officially sanctioned and facilitated conveyor belt. And it's operated by NGOs who are using your tax money to basically flood the border. And then all of the other, expenses and logistics that need to apply to those who arrive in the country and then need to be looked after. So it's a conveyor belt. And I think that there's a serious problem with the Republicans in the Senate. If they would agree to anything like a cap of up to 5,000 a day being acceptable. That's my call. Thank you.
Yeah, very good, Kurt. Thanks for the call.
And my blood is still boiling over those 5 illegals who kicked the, out of 2 cops, even kicking one in the head. And yesterday, the New York City police chief, he was upset because they were out within 3 hours of being arrested, going back to the shelters that our tax dollars are paying for.
Reprehensible. Cowards. You have 8 people attacking on a lieutenant and a cop. The 4 that were arrested should be sitting in Rikers right now, on bail, should be indicted this week and taken off our streets. You want to know why our cops are getting assaulted? There's no consequences. And we must change this.
Yeah, I mean, they did the Safety Act before we did. We just scaled what New York State did with respect to no cash bail, so they walked. Of course they did.
I don't want them in jail. I want them deported.
Well, they're the huddled masses yearning to breathe free.
Listen to this. Governor Hochul did use the D word. Hochul. I'm making up words, but she did use the D word yesterday, Dan.
Why is it okay that they are left out on bail?
I'm not satisfied with that at all. These are law enforcement officers who should never, under any
circumstances be subjected to physical assault.
Those individuals be deported?
I think that's absolutely something that should be looked at. I mean, if someone commits a crime against a police officer in the state of New York,
I'm so impressed.
and they're not, they've
so
not processed, they're not here
blah,
legally.
Blah, blah, blah,
Definitely
blah,
worth
blah,
checking
blah,
into.
Blah, blah,
It's worth
blah,
checking
blah,
into.
Blah, blah, blah.
Well, you
I'm
think
sorry,
these guys are ever going to swear allegiance to the United States?
So this is what we're supposed to hang our hat on. A gang of people in this country illegally beat up 2 cops, and the governor of a state says deportation is something that should be looked into. Wow. I'm impressed. No, I'm not. She's a hack. She's a cipher. Looked into. This is what I'm talking about. There is not the political will on the left, and some on the right, it would seem, ostensibly on the right, to deport people who commit violent crimes. And until that changes, we got a big problem. This is the self-immolation of the country. Forget all of the other conversations. Just this narrow one, because it is illustrative of everything else. The governor of New York State is uncertain as to whether a gang of young men in this country illegally who beat up 2 cops, whether they should be deported. That's a real brain teaser. Not sure. People, above my pay grade should look at that. What's to look at? The chief is right. Detain them, adjudicate them, deport them. It's pretty simple. Yeah. But it's not. It's not in our politics. And this tells you everything you need to know about the new Marxists who dominate the Democrat Socialist Party and apparently have made some incursions into the Republican Party, too. By the way, this is so clear that the punky QB has weighed in on it. I love this. Jim McMahon is back in the news.
I love him.
Jim McMahon, who's, I think he's still in Arizona. So
he lives in Arizona. Yeah.
So he knows something about this, just like Urlacher does. McMahon, who's now in the cannabis business. About that.
Hey,
but anyway,
guys got to eat, man. Let them do it.
Let's set that aside for a second. Here's what Jim McMahon said on Fox as he was promoting the banking normalization for marijuana dispensaries and growers and stuff. But he had some other things to say.
I closed the damn borders for one, and then go find all the people that got in here illegally, and yeah, it's ridiculous. We're paying all this money as taxpayers, and it's not helping us at all. We're sending it all overseas. Who knows where we're sending it, but it's not being used here in the States. You look at California; they get the most money every year for homelessness, and they get the worst homelessness population in the country, or probably in the world. There's just so many things going wrong, and we got to just stop the crazy spending and printing money and close our borders, and let's clean house.
All right, Jim McMahon for governor of Arizona.
God, I love him. Oh my! What if he comes back and runs for governor of Illinois? He's got great name recognition.
Why would he leave Arizona? Stay there, take out Katie Hobbs. That's fine. So yeah, right. I mean, McMahon. By the way, McMahon
He sounds great.
Stumbled upon a particularly important insight. California that gets the most money for homeless people. They have the highest homeless population. Well, that's what we do in this country, Jim. We subsidize pathologies. So we get more of them. We subsidize pathologies. We don't address them. We exacerbate them. That's what throwing money at it. That's what throwing money at the border does. That's what throwing money at the homeless problem in California does, because you're just funding the government enterprise that is ever expanding to manage this problem that they've, if not created directly, exacerbated directly. Len in Highland Park.
Good morning. So when you have an open border, and no country on earth has ever had an open border like this before, you eventually become what the people are leaving. And this imbecile, with one stroke of the pen, shut down the Keystone pipeline in a day, putting I don't know how many people out of work. And he can do one other stroke with the pen, but this isn't the purpose they want to serve, and shut down the border. And there should be no negotiation on a new border policy till it's completely shut down. And then they can start talking. But in the meantime, there's no 5,000 a day. There's nothing a day. And it can be done and not on the taxpayer's dime. And I'm leaving at 3 this morning tomorrow. I'll be in Naples Saturday.
Oh, very good. All right.
Oh,
All right,
nice.
Len. All right, we'll connect when you get down here. All right, thanks for the call, Len.
Driving down.
Drive safe. It's a long drive.
It's
Long
so
drive.
long.
Robert, Bloomingdale.
Good morning. For the last 3 years, the Biden administration said there was no border crisis, and that's why they repealed all of Trump's executive orders. But now they need a bipartisan solution to the problem they created. But after they let 15 million illegals in 10 years from now, are they going to vote Democrat or Republican when they give them the right to vote in 5 to 10 years? And who are these people going to vote for? It's that simple. They want this, and they want it as much as possible, because that's the solution to complete power by the Democratic Party.
Thanks, Robert. Marty, Naperville.
Hey, good morning. Two things real quick, Dan. You're right about that ride to Naples. When I drive down to Florida, every plane is laughing at me. But anyway, and Amy, I take offense to you. KGB is a black woman, lesbian. I'm sick that she is correct about everything. Stop making fun of her. Those are her credentials. She knows what she's talking about. Okay. Stop making noises when she's talking.
Yeah,
thank you.
The federal triple threat. Yeah,
That's the longest I've ever heard her talk ever. I mean, she normally, keeps it. So next question, and goes through her binder of what should the answer be.
It was exciting. She or somebody penned that speech for her, and so it was a big day for her. It was like her State of the Union address. Chuck and Delavan.
Chuck.
You can Google this. The Texas border is 1,264 miles. They have 19,000 people in the National Guard in Texas. You can post them every half mile and let them randomly shoot into Mexico. There's your border.
Yeah. Okay, Chuck. No, I don't.
Provocative, are you?
I don't think random gunfire is the solution. But yeah, it's not a personnel problem. That's a salient point. Candace, Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin.
Yeah, if people are paying attention to what's going on in Europe, and they're not showing you what's going on in Europe, but this has been going on for years. The murder and the communist beatdowns, the mob picking, which came from Mao, has been happening to old ladies and little kids at their school by, these huge gangs of illegals. And I mean, I think that the U.S., that some kind of weird agreement's already been made. We're already a communist nation that came with COVID. And now we're just like a carcass for the pickings. And, people are just going to keep complaining, la, 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 which is all noise. What are you going to do about it?
What are you going to do about it? That is the operative question.
What are you going to do about it? Stop.
Thanks for the call, Candace. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, Doctors Economos, Gavalis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidisciplined practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology, such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930. That's 630-830-4930. Or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Is the big guy's incompetence putting us on the precipice of war in the Middle East? We'll put that to KT McFarland at 7:07.
Today, a high of 50 degrees with mostly clear skies at 7 a.m. WIND Chicago.
The U.S. attacks Iran-backed militants again. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Not the ones who attacked the base in Jordan, killing 3 American soldiers Sunday. We are still awaiting that retaliation. U.S. forces hit Houthis in Yemen, taking out 10 drones they were preparing to launch. And a Navy warship shot down 3 drones and a missile as Houthis keep attacking shipping in and around the Red Sea.
The Houthis, they can claim all they want that this is linked to Gaza. But 2/3 of the ships that they're hitting have no connection to Israel whatsoever.
National Security Council spokesman John Kirby. Ukraine's going to get more support, fending off Russia's invasion. European leaders have agreed to provide a $54 billion aid package as additional U.S. military help for Ukraine remains in limbo in Congress in a border dispute with Republicans. President Biden was asked on his way into a prayer breakfast this morning.
Mr. President, some House Republicans are calling the border deal a non-starter. Can you get it done?
Mr. President, are you doing enough to try?
And he said, we're trying. In the House, lawmakers did approve a tax cut bill that Fox's Jack Callahan reports.
Passed with bipartisan support, but more Democrats than Republicans. It expands the child tax credit and allows businesses to deduct more of their capital and R&D expenses. As Oklahoma Republican Kevin Hearn said,
we can't expect to compete with China when it's more expensive to invest and innovate and grow here in the United States.
Former President Trump's lost a court battle in Britain. A judge has thrown out his lawsuit against a company founded by the man who put together an infamous dossier that became part of the Trump-Russia investigation.
A compilation of often salacious allegations put together by an ex-British intelligence officer, Christopher Steele, and published on the website BuzzFeed in 2017. Steele alleged Russia had material it could have used to blackmail Donald Trump, but many of the claims were never substantiated.
That's Fox's Jonathan Savage. America's listening to Fox News.
35 degrees in Chicago, 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says he now supports ending the Chicago Public Schools program that puts uniformed police officers in dozens of high schools. The mayor telling the Chicago Sun-Times and WBEZ conglomerate that he will give the Board of Ed the green light to end its $13.3 million contract to put uniformed personnel in schools. That decision comes on the heels of Chicago police saying they're investigating another Chicago public school student killed in a shooting on the north side.
There's a vehicle that pulled up. Several individuals got out of that vehicle and fired weapons in the direction of these individuals, striking all 3.
CPD Superintendent Larry Snelling said the 3 teen boys were walking yesterday in the 1200 block of West Thorndale Avenue when the gunfire broke out, and says they'll take extra care at schools today.
We are going to have special attention around all the schools. So across the districts, across the entire city, we will make sure that we have a police presence at dismissal and at the time that students are arriving at school.
The shooting happened about 2 blocks from Senn High School, where the teens attended. City of Chicago is now the largest city in the country calling for a ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas terrorists in Gaza. City Council approving a controversial ceasefire resolution that increases the divide between the council and the city's Jewish community.
I'm voting no today because of the divisive process that I was worried was disrespectful to some of the members of those communities, but also with the disrespect among colleagues.
Alderman Scott Waguespack, the mayor, cast the tie-breaking vote. The meeting was so heated at one point, Johnson was forced to temporarily clear the council chambers while the lone Jewish member of the council, Deborah Silverstein, was trying to speak. In an alarming story first reported by ABC7 here in Chicago, new data analyzed shows a surge in the number of new cases where handheld lasers on the ground are pointed directly into plane cockpits while in flight. In Illinois, an increase of 48% last year. Even more alarming, a 79% increase in laser strikes, 747 incidents in Indiana. The Bulls have won 2 of 3, taking down the Hornets, 117-110. Big Ten hoops, Northwestern gave number 2 Purdue another scare. Lost in overtime, 105-96 at Mackey Arena. Boo Buie and Ty Berry each had 25. Northwestern coach, a frustrated Chris Collins, was ejected. 7:05. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
This radio station is always on, but sometimes you need more content that you can take with you anywhere. That's why we invented the SalemPodcastNetwork.com. You'll find all the great hosts on this radio station, plus a few more, like Charlie Kirk, Dinesh D'Souza, Trish Regan, Jenna Ellis, and Dennis and Julie. There's literally no end to what we can teach you. It's like radio on demand, and just like radio, it's always on. Go find out what you're missing. Download the app, SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
It's a new year, and that means New Year's resolutions. Hi, Amy Jacobson here, and if one of your New Year's resolutions was to do more to help others, then we want to let you know that you still have the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of children in Latin America and the Caribbean through Food for the Poor. Your donation of just $80 provides food for an entire year for 2 children. That's life-changing. Just because the Christmas season is over, that doesn't mean that the need has gone away. Food for the Poor is a faith-based organization that works with partners on the ground to make sure these children are fed. You know, we talk a lot about the root causes of our immigration crisis, and one of those causes is the situation in many of these countries. This is your chance to help take care of others. To make a donation of any amount, just visit 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor. That's 560theanswer.com/foodforthepoor. Thanks again for your generosity.
Hey, to social engineering and leftist corporations, do they make you feel like we're kind of living in the Twilight Zone? Well, you're not alone. Now, our friends at Pure Talk, my wireless company, they know the silent majority is fed up, and I'm calling on all of those Americans, stand with a company that champions your values. The average family is saving almost $1,000 a year. Dial pound 250, say the keyword SAVE NOW. Do it now. You'll save an additional 50% off your first month from our friends at Pure Talk.
If you have a bank account, pay attention. Your savings could be at risk. The U.S. banking system is once again under extreme stress. This jeopardizes you and your family. But there is an easy way to protect yourself. Gold. Contact Noble Gold Investments today and safeguard your family's financial future. As a thank you for opening a qualified account, they'll give you a free quarter-ounce gold standard coin. Visit NobleGoldInvestments.com. NobleGoldInvestments.com. Gold. Safety for uncertain times.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-353-2973 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-353-2973. That's 800-353-2973. What do you have to lose? Call 800-353-2973. Again, 800-353-2973.
7:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. A Plainfield 111th east and westbound between US 30 and 248th shut down because of a bad accident. Bartlett, we're hearing Route 25 this morning is closed between Southwind and Dunham because of icy road conditions. Unusual. Tri-State Tollway, due to an earlier accident, you've got a northbound jam right at the Stevenson Expressway. Bishop Ford jamming up into the Ryan merge. Ryan this morning running at 25 minutes. 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Today, times of clouds and sun, a high today 50, cloudy tonight, low 35, and then cloudy, cooler day tomorrow, the high only 40, sunny to partly cloudy for Saturday, high Saturday at 44. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Crystal clear skies right now, 35 at O'Hare, 37 at Midway. Your next news update, 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. I'm a little concerned about President Biden's announced trip to East Palestine, Ohio.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. I want to make sure that somebody has told the big guy that's not where the leader of Hamas lives. Because I don't want
37%
I
of
don't want him.
teenage girls.
I don't want him to waste a trip. That's my concern there. But I did want to go back to something that we discussed a bit earlier in the show as we were reviewing that ceasefire resolution passed in their infinite wisdom by the Chicago City Council, with Mayor BLM Brandon casting the tie-breaking vote. And a caller we got, too, talking about, well, wait a second, the UN is on board with the ceasefire? Oh, sure, of course. And South Africa has brought this case to the International Criminal Court for genocide and apartheid. You know, these are customary accusations from the terrorist apologist crowd, which is half of the city council and the mayor of Chicago included. But just a reminder, questions were asked about the United Nations Relief and Works Agency after the October 7th terrorist attack. Like, is this an organization we should be financing? We, meaning the United States. What is their relationship with Hamas? They deal exclusively in Gaza. And this was the answer of questions about the relationship between that UN agency and a designated terrorist organization, Hamas, the party responsible for the greatest atrocity against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. This was the response from our State Department and one of its spokeshumans, Matt Miller.
They are, I will say, as I said a moment ago, actually they're on the front lines. UNRWA staff putting their lives at risk to get food, water, medicine to children, to babies, to civilians. So we absolutely support the work that they're doing.
Okay, in light of that Jerusalem Post report, of 100 Hamas terrorists confirmed to have graduated from UNRWA schools, what level of terrorist involvement with UNRWA will it take to motivate President Biden to condemn the UNRWA terrorist
So we always condemn terrorism, and I think that's pretty clear just based on what you hear me say from this podium every day and what you've heard me say about Hamas since October 7th. But I do want to reiterate what I said about the life-saving work that UNRWA is doing and how important it is that that work not just continue, but that it be expanded. We would welcome other countries increasing their levels of support to UNRWA because we really do think the work they're doing is essential.
So that's people who should know better. That's your State Department spokeshuman. And so what we find out is, yes, the Biden administration condemns terrorism, particularly when they finance it. 12 employees of UNRWA, United Nations Relief and Works Agency, including 7 primary or secondary school teachers.
I know.
Were material supporters of the Hamas terrorist attack on October 7th. The intelligence provided by the Israelis, they provided weapons.
Right.
Among other, and as well as intel and other information. So they were collaborators in that October 7th terrorist attack. Now I know that, that's a small fraction of the number of employees of UNRWA. What kind of defense is that? Because that's the one being offered. Interestingly, 13, this was a good piece in the Wall Street Journal the other day from Naftali Balanson, who is the head of an NGO that monitors this sort of terrorist activity and the interconnections. The South Africa petition in the International Court of Justice. 13 of the footnotes in that South African petition cite UNRWA in support of its claim that the Jewish state is waging genocide against the Palestinians and is an apartheid state. South African communists citing terrorist sympathizers to accuse Israel of genocide and apartheid. You keeping score?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For more on all of this, we're pleased to be joined again by our friend KT McFarland. Of course, KT was the Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump. She's also the author of the bestseller Revolution, Trump, Washington, and We the People. KT, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be with Dan and Amy.
Yeah, so it's great to have you. So, all of this business, both domestically and internationally, of trying to rally for Hamas, and with the administration sort of, again, giving middling rhetoric to try to salve the fragile egos of some of their more intemperate constituents.
Yeah, in the Trump administration, we understood that a lot of the supplies, food, humanitarian supplies, medicines that the UN was giving to the Palestinians were going directly to Hamas, either directly because the UN agency handed them off happily or because Hamas stole them out of the warehouses and it was never reported. So we cut back on American direct contributions to the relief organizations in Gaza because we thought what was happening was that they weren't going to the people. They weren't going to the women and the children who needed them. They were going directly to Hamas. And if Hamas people couldn't use them, they then sold them on the black market, and then they made money from that. So we did not feel that American taxpayers should fund Hamas, and it sadly turned out that we were correct. Now, the Biden administration comes in, reverses all that. Money goes back to these agencies, which immediately goes into the pockets of Hamas, and then you see Hamas is well enough equipped and rich enough to launch those October 7th attacks. It was only a matter of time before Hamas did that, and we're now living with the consequences. Now, the State Department spokesman, a little bit vague on his base, had to say, well, the United States is cutting back now. We're not going to give money directly to that UN agency. But it really begs the point. What's the United Nations? We're the biggest supporters of the United Nations, right? We pay the majority of the budget. We give them the free land in New York and the pricey real estate of Manhattan. And what do? Are they supporting what they're supposed to support globally, or has it been turned into a weapon to use against democracy, to use against freedom, to use against human rights? And the UN, if I was stunned, Amy, let me just tell you, I went to a Christmas party at the United Nations, and right before Christmas, so I'm walking along, there's a huge visitor's entrance, wall upon wall of pictures and celebrations and all the stuff you would normally see in a big public space. You know what it was devoted to?
What?
The suffering of the Palestinian people on the West Bank and the evil Israelis. That was at the United Nations. They're putting that right in your face. So they're making it's no secret, as Dan just talked about, that the UN does not support Israel. It is anti-Semitic, and it is supporting terrorists.
You know what that UN building, since you brought it up in New York, would be great for? Migrant Center.
Yes.
And then the UN, all the world could live their values.
That's a big lobby. They could put a lot of illegal immigrants.
Exactly.
Do they have showers? If they have showers, we're all set. We'll be great. So, KT, I wanted to ask you about Iran. Obviously, those 3 poor soldiers were killed while they were sleeping in their beds, and there's been 165 plus attacks. Biden said he's going to do something, but what pain is he planning for Iran? Like a strongly worded letter or something more sinister?
Well, there are really 3 options. There are 3 military options. Number 1 would be to continue what they've done, which is to do nothing, turn the other cheek, maybe make some symbolic gesture, strong letter to the United Nations. Number 2 would be sort of dialing it up, and that would be to go after the proxies. So the proxy forces, Iran pays for them, trains them, gives them ammunition, directs them, but they don't directly, or they're not located in Iran proper. They're in Yemen, they're in Lebanon, they're in Syria, they're in Iraq, but they're doing the job of the Iranian military. And then finally, it would be a direct attack on Iran. I worry that the direct-on attack Iran would give them the fig leaf they need to say that they're a nuclear weapons state and then have nuclear weapons within a week's time. I'm all in favor of that middle option, but to do it very robustly, to take out, not just degrade by 20% the ammunition dumps and the missile launchers and all the things that are in Yemen and Iraq and Syria and Lebanon, but to take them out 100%, and then to have very strong economic measures, including potentially even a blockade of Iran. You know, with the Trump administration, again, we were tough on Iran, and we had sanctions that Iran could not sell oil overseas. And it shut it down. Iran was broke. They were bankrupt, plus the price of oil, even if they could sort of smuggle some of it out to sell, they weren't making much money out of it. The Iranian people were really angry because their bread prices went up, their cost of living went up, their lives it just sort of cratered economically. And yet the Biden administration comes in, if Trump wanted it, we don't want it. And so they allow Iran to sell oil on the open market, and then in addition to that, the price of oil is sky high. So Iran's really rich right now. We should shut all that stuff down.
Yeah, I wanted to get your reaction to something that Joe Kent said earlier this week. He was on with Tucker, and he's a Green Beret. He's a Republican candidate for Congress in Washington State. Again, he lost his wife in a bombing in Syria, who was also a military. She was a cryptographer about 5 years ago, as you know. And something he said, though, particularly in response to the immediate response from like Lindsey Graham, John Cornyn about bombing Iran right away, Nikki Haley saying something sort of like that. We should go after their leadership once they're not inside Iran, but once they come out of Iran, we should, a la Soleimani, we should target their leadership. So something that Joe Kent said about this response from the neocons, and I want to get your reaction.
You just are kowtowing to Vladimir Putin. It's the exact same mentality that got us into the Iraq war. You're either with us or you're with the terrorists. And look, Tucker, I would love to come on here and defend neoconservatism as someone who lost my late wife in these wars, as somebody who lost countless friends, as somebody who fought myself 11 combat deployments. I spent most of my 20s and 30s in Iraq. I would love to tell you it had worked, but it simply did not. And that's a very hard thing to admit. I get into arguments all the time with fellow veterans about this exact same topic. So I think a lot of this is literally the gambler's fallacy. There's a lot of people who think, hey, if we just keep trying, if we keep attempting to spread freedom through the barrel of a gun and trillions of US dollars, this time it's going to work. Let's just double down. And this is, how really nice casinos are built in Las Vegas off of this exact same mentality. So I think that combined with the financial interest from Lockheed Martin and every single defense contractor and, putting someone like Lloyd Austin as the Secretary of Defense, who's still on the board at Raytheon, I think that factor with that mentality and people not being able to admit that we got this wrong and then making adjustments to our policy.
What do you think, KT?
I could not have said it better, and I could not have said it with more personal experience and heart as that man spoke. But it's absolutely right. The neocons they're always looking for another war. And part of it is that the defense industry makes a lot of money on another war. But let's be smart about it. How often do we have to have these forever wars before we learn the lesson, whether it's Vietnam or Iraq or Afghanistan or even Libya? Now we're thinking, let's go after Iran for another forever war. Let's just be smart about it and use we're not good at that kind of stuff. We don't win those wars, as Joe said. But what we are really good at is using economic weapons. We're good at cyber weapons. We're good at technology, and employ those weapons the same way Reagan won the Cold War. We didn't beat the Soviet Union on a battlefield. We beat them economically. We bankrupted them. We manipulated oil prices and various other things to bankrupt the Soviet Union. I'm all for bankrupting Russia today, and with regard to Ukraine, I'm all for bankrupting Iran. Use the economic weapon, and then the people themselves, they take care of it. The Iranian people, if they're bankrupt, if their standard of living is so collapsed, guess what? No more mullahs.
But I have to ask though too. We don't enforce sanctions against Iran. We give them a glide path to nuclearization. We do a cash for hostages deals. And so we provide them these resources, this underwriting, if you will. That weakness is provocative. So that's the response. I wonder if it's an anticipated response, since we're financing directly or indirectly terror. I mean, pretty soon the largest state sponsor of terror in this world is not going to be Iran. It's going to be the United States if this president continues on at this pace. And I wonder if this sort of underwriting plus a demonstration of weakness is purposeful.
You mean, are they intending to encourage terror? I mean, I can't.
Are they intending to encourage? You know, this is sort of a war party argument, but are they intending to encourage conflict for the sort of what Kent was describing with and what you just mentioned for the war party, the defense contractors, the chicken hawks, etc.?
You know, I found that the sort of the stupidest mistakes ever made in history have either been done intentionally, like you're implying, or they've been done out of incompetence. And I suppose it's probably a combination of both when I look at the Democrats, particularly in the Biden-Obama administrations. I don't think that they intentionally want to destroy the world, but they're doing a really good job of it. When you, as you point out, they've enriched Iran, they've enabled Iran with weapons and nuclear weapons, and now whenever Iran does anything aggressive, they just pretend it isn't happening. So, in fact, what they're doing is encouraging a war, because by doing those two things, by enriching Iran, and then when Iran gets aggressive, pretending it isn't happening, Iran's going to keep pushing through its proxies, not Iran proper. The Iranians don't want a war with us. They're very happy to sacrifice their proxies. But at some point, we're going to have mass casualties of Americans. The ship is going to go down. And then the clamor of the people that you've just referred to, the neocons, whatever you want to call them, the war party, for the Republican and Democrats, they will all scream, well, we have to have a war with Iran. And that's a war we can't win. We could have prevented. We don't want. And we really don't know how to fight. So, again, use the economic weapons, but let everybody know, if you kill Americans, we're coming after the people who kill the Americans. Right now, that's just the proxies.
Well, and the proxy group that has claimed responsibility for those 3 Americans that were killed at the Jordanian-Syrian border is in Iraq. And Iraq is, one of our partners in peace in the Middle East, according to, the stated position of the State Department. And yet you have all these Iranian proxies operating in Iraq. You have some Iranian sympathizers in the government in Iraq. And yet, again, here we are, we're underwriting them in part, and by extension, underwriting Iranian proxies, pretending to have a partner in peace, like we were attempting for the last decade under Obama and Biden to have a partner in peace in Iran. And it's all phony.
Yes, it is all phony. Tragically, all phony. And are they doing it deliberately, or do they just have a warped worldview? The Obama-Biden administration, they thought if they could placate and appease Iran enough, Iran would become a responsible international stakeholder, and then wouldn't go to war, wouldn't develop nuclear weapons, wouldn't have terrorism. Well, that was dead wrong. Instead, they should have looked at the Iranian constitution and understood that from the very beginning, from the very inception of the Iranian revolutionary movement, that Iran has had 2 goals, and only 2 goals. They've had the goal of getting the United States out of the Middle East and destroying the state of Israel. They have not wavered from those goals for a minute. They have changed tactics, whether it's initially it was supposed to be the Iranian military that was going to do it, and then now it's the proxies that are going to do it, and now it's the terrorists that are going to do it. It's just understand that you're not going to sweet-talk Iran out of its ambitions. It doesn't want to enrich its people. It doesn't want to make life better for Iranians. It wants to get America out of the Middle East, destroy Israel. Oh, and by the way, if you can kill Jews, that's all the better.
Katie McFarland, former First Deputy National Security Advisor, President Trump, author of Revolution, Trump, Washington, and We the People. KT, thank you as always.
Honor and a pleasure.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Have you been struggling to find an easy, safe, and secure document scanning solution for Salesforce.com, Microsoft 365, SharePoint, or OnBase by Highland? Your struggle is now over, and it's time to get your documents and operations into the 21st century. With IoT Smart Connected Scanning, It's easy to turn physical paper into digital documents and have them directly uploaded to the cloud with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. And you don't need a degree in computing or IT to make it happen. Using QR code technology uniquely configured for your specific business, anyone can set the IoT Smart Connected Scanning device up in 5 minutes or less, saving your organization money and valuable time. Remote employees can even capture documents and send them safely and seamlessly. Organize documents efficiently and securely with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. To see a demo or to order now, go to ready4idt.com. That's ready4idt.com. Use promo code SMART and receive 10% off your order. IDT, putting paper in its place.
You cannot live forever, but your legacy can. For over 185 years, families have trusted Catholic Cemeteries of Chicago to set their legacies in stone. With 47 locations throughout Cook and Lake counties, a prepaid cemetery plan locks in today's prices and safeguards against rising inflation. Visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org or call 708-236-5490 to schedule a free consultation today.
This is Dennis Prager, and now a truly exciting new benefit. My monthly online video get-together for Pragertopia Plus members only. For an hour each month, get an exclusive chance to ask me anything. I'll be answering your questions. I've never done this. Submit your questions for me at Pragertopia.com. This is our chance to connect like never before. Go to Pragertopia.com or click the banner at DennisPrager.com.
After years of discomfort, it's like I'm alive again.
Sonia Hackett talks about how QC Kinetics changed her life.
QC Kinetics has given me my quality of life back.
Before QC Kinetics, Sonia suffered from horrible knee and back pain stemming from a car accident.
I was wearing knee braces just to try to maneuver around.
Sonia hated the idea of pain meds, and surgery seemed too risky, so she turned to the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics, the leaders in advanced regenerative medicine.
That consultation just changed my life. I can do the treadmill, everything. I don't have anything holding me back. The quality of life is pain-free. QC Kinetics has made us very happy.
Call QC Kinetics for your free consultation today.
I'm going to get emotional again. They are like family members to me. They care.
Call QC Kinetics now.
Call QC Kinetics, 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 7:37, Evanston seeks to lead the way in providing people in this country illegally or non-citizens in voting in local elections. There's legislation at the state level in Illinois to do the same. We'll revisit the topic and the conversation we started yesterday, non-citizens voting in local, state, and, federal elections, 7:37.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
Sunshine and 36 degrees at 7:32. 2 children, their mother, and 3 police officers are among 12 injured after a corrosive substance was thrown on a family in South London this morning. Fire brigades say they were called to a chemical incident after a family was seen fighting in the street. It was earlier believed this was a terrorist incident. It now appears to be family-related. The House is passing a $78 billion tax package that includes an expanded child tax credit.
On this vote, the yeas are 357, the nays are 70. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The bipartisan bill now heads to the Senate. Mark Zuckerberg apologizing to parents whose children were harmed by Instagram. Zuckerberg, one of 5 CEOs from top social media companies who were grilled by the U.S. Senate Wednesday about child exploitation on their platforms. Well, you may have already heard it this morning. Billy Joel fans have waited 3 decades for new music, and now they're finally getting it.
Billy Joel last released a pop album in 1993, and now the 3-decade wait. The Rock and Roll Hall of Famer teased new music during a show in December and recently on social media with a post showing the turning of a page of lyrics from Famous Last Words, which was on 1993's River of Dreams album, transitioning to chords from his new song, Turn the Lights Back On. Another had a clip with lyrics.
Please open the door.
The single arrives today on all digital platforms and limited edition vinyl. In New York, Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
You can hear that entire song on several music platforms this morning, and it is worth a spin. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says he supports ending the Chicago Public Schools program that puts uniformed police officers in dozens of high school, giving the Board of Ed the green light to end a $10.3 million contract to put uniformed personnel in schools. That decision comes on the heels of Chicago police investigating another CPS student killed in a shooting, this time on the north side.
We are going to have special attention around all the schools. So across the districts, across the entire city, we will make sure that we have a police presence at dismissal and at the time that students are arriving at school.
CPD Superintendent Larry Snelling telling us Davion Gibson was hit in the chest, taken to the hospital, and later died. Another 16-year-old and 15-year-old were also hospitalized with gunshot wounds following the shooting near Senn High School. The Bulls have won 2 of their last 3, taking down the Hornets 117-110. Northwestern missed out on a big opportunity to take down number 2 Purdue at Mackey Arena, falling in overtime 105-96. The news, a service of Fox Valley Coins, currently buying all gold and silver bars and coins, silver dollars, rare date proofs, and mint sets. Visit foxvalleycoins.com. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
The Sean Thompson Show.
The Joe Biden administration is truly the administration for the rats, the thieves, the cartel members, the gangbangers. They're having the time of their life, and they're making more money than ever before. When a politician, salesman, or a gypsy, if anything, tells you, I'll be honest with you, that's when you know they're lying. When one of these Ukrainian overlords in a $6,000 suit tells you we don't steal the money, it's pretty much a confession of him stealing the money.
The Sean Thompson Show, weekday afternoons at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
As a business owner, do you have a strategy for exiting your business? Most business owners don't. Studies done by the Exit Planning Institute show 75% of business owners who don't have an exit plan are dissatisfied with their exit, and 80% of businesses put to market never sell. Total Clarity Wealth Management understands the hesitation to discuss exiting. Will customers leave? Will competitors take advantage? Will key employees leave? That's why they offer confidential planning. Contact Anne-Marie at Total Clarity Wealth Management. Discover what the financial foundation should be to pursue an exit that is satisfying. At some point, you are going to leave your business. Will it be on your terms? Total Clarity can show you the way to financial readiness and keep you on track. Anne-Marie is a certified exit planning advisor. Visit TotalClarityBusiness.com. That's TotalClarityBusiness.com. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Total Clarity Wealth Management, Inc., a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I ran this by my doctor. I always run it by her, everything I take, and I told her I've been taking this for a while. Is this okay to take? She goes, oh, this is wonderful for you to take. Keep taking it. She goes, I approve this. This is very good. So she said, yes. She said, this is one thing you can take that's very good. I'm not going to stop taking Balance of Nature.
Step into the new year with a new you. Start your journey to better health by calling 1-800-246-8751 or by going to balanceofnature.com and signing up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Hurry, this is your last chance to take advantage of this offer. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
50 years of precision tooling. Now that's a lot of job shop work and custom parts. And it's why Bruscher Machining is the go-to CNC turning and machining company in Chicagoland. If you have a custom project, whether it's a single prototype or a short-run production of a few thousand pieces, give them a call today for your free custom quote, 630-876-1661. Or visit BruscherMachining.com. That's BRUCHER Machining.com. They also provide heat treating, balancing, plating, and surface coating, welding, and fabrication, plus project management. Bruscher Machining guarantees to consistently deliver high-quality parts and solutions on time for reasonable prices. Yeah, everyone says that, but the proof is in the tooling. Stop by to meet their team of seasoned pros and tour the facility located in West Chicago. To learn more about how CNC machining can turn your tough project into an operational reality, contact Bruscher Machining today for your free custom quote, 630-876-1661.
7:40 and a check of the roads in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center. The Edens right now running at 23 Lake Hook Road to the junction, the Kennedy 44 into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike running at an hour from 390 into the old post office. Stevenson 1 hour from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. And the Dan Ryan a half hour 95th into the Circle. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Times of clouds and sun, a high near 50, but temperatures cooling in the early afternoon and leading to low clouds and 35 overnight. Sunshine, clear skies, 35 at O'Hare, and your next news update is at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. America First with Sebastian Gorka. Weekday afternoons at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So, Evanston, the home of Northwestern.
Yes. Familiar with their work.
Yeah, well, they led the nation in pursuing reparations.
Yeah.
So they're looking to lead the nation, certainly the state, again. They're the first city in Illinois to implement ranked choice voting. That's coming up in their 25 muni elections. It's exciting. And they're also set to visit a proposed ordinance that would allow documented residents, not U.S. citizens, to vote in local elections. Good idea. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 646-36DA, turnkey.pro text line. Let's be a little bit more inclusive.
Yeah, and on an ancillary note, Northwestern girls played Iowa Hawkeyes, and your girls took a knee during the national anthem.
Yeah, I heard half of them did. I saw that online, and then Caitlin Collins and the Hawkeyes pounded them.
Good, as they should have.
Yeah,
we don't take knees at Iowa.
Or
Thank you.
What's it? Caitlin Clark. What's her name?
Caitlin Clark, number 22.
Yeah, all-time leading scorer in the Big Ten.
She's changing the whole world of women's basketball.
Yeah,
we tried to get in the game on Saturday. It was sold out. Purdue game was sold out. It's just amazing.
Yeah, she's great from downtown. I've heard. Yes, like a female Steph Curry. I got it.
Yes. Okay. All right. Anyway.
So Alderman Devin Reed, 8th Ward, if you're keeping track of your Evanston City Councilman, which I know you are. I believe it has been the march of our nation to allow more and more folks the right to vote in our elections. I think that folks who are members of our community, who are documented legal residents, but not quite citizens yet, they're so close, who are paying taxes, their kids are going to our school, should have the right to participate in our local democracy. Precisely. And if it's good enough for non-citizens, they're so close, then what about for documented individuals who are not permanent legal residents? They have no legal residential status, but except to the extent that they are asylum seekers, because, again, we're told that all of the people who've been given entry through sort of the probationary designation are asylum seekers, the huddled masses. So it's just a stone's throw from those who are legal residents but not citizens voting to those who are here under some sort of dubious legal designation or maybe not, but could be, theoretically, that's close enough, to allow them to vote as well, because what if say those Venezuelan migrants who were granted, in the process of being granted the work permits, so they're here, the kids are in schools, they're making money, ostensibly, they're paying taxes, ostensibly, so, right? I mean, it's just, these are just minor distinctions that really don't amount to much when they're, as Alderman Reed said, not quite citizens, but they're paying taxes. The kids are going to our schools. They should have the right to participate in local democracy. Well, why not state democracy? Why not federal democracy?
Well, I would love to hear from newly minted American citizens who worked so hard. They did it the right way. They came to this country the right way. When they became citizens, we went to their ceremony, and I just cried. I mean, people were waving American flags. They were so happy to be Americans, and they did it the right way. And this is a slap in the face to everyone who did it the right way, who followed the rules. I mean, do we know what are they going to pledge allegiance to our country? I mean, what they could say or do whatever they want, but they didn't, go through the course. Did they pass the test, the citizenship test? No, they don't have to do any of that.
Well, they're I mean, obviously they're not citizens. That's the whole point of extending the franchise to people who are not American citizens. So if they're going to do that for people that are documented, then what constitutes documentation? And, while we're at it, I mean, is documentation that really important when you're talking about distinguishing between groups of non-citizens, some here legally, some here illegally? I mean, the ones that are here illegally are still getting the same services. Their kids are still going to the same schools. So what's the difference? I mean, isn't the point to blur the distinction, actually erase the distinction between citizens and non-citizens? And this is another step in the direction. We're not the only ones, of course. Other enlightened communities like Washington, D.C., San Francisco, Montgomery County, Maryland, allow non-citizens to vote in local elections. And so Evanston could lead the way in Illinois. And then, hey, they've got some support at the legislative level. Of course they do. State Senator Selena Villanueva, she's a Democrat socialist from Chicago. She introduced a bill a couple of years ago that would allow non-citizens to vote in school board elections.
Oh,
so let's extend that, and then why not? Why not state elections and then federal elections? Let's, they're doing this incrementally, but it is pretty clear the direction they're going, isn't it?
I love this.
Paula and Racine, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
So I used to live in Evanston, but I still own a small condo there, but definitely looking to sell, given all these recent developments. The university owns half the town. Another big chunk are the lakefront mansions. They're all untouchable, and the people who bear the burden are going to be the middle class property owners, middle class residents. So I say, enough's enough. I'm definitely, cutting ties.
Thanks for the call, Paula. The city, the alderman who proposed this for Evanston, motion for city staff and outside law firm to produce a memo on non-citizen voting. So, they're making all the appropriate plans. That motion, of course, passed. And so they're in the process of getting this thing done.
Well, yeah. Engaged communities are thriving communities, they say.
Alderman Reed, quoting him, election reform should be about making sure more voters and more voices are heard in order to then affect the outcome. Wow. That is a deep thought. Right, exactly. But that's what this is. More voters means more voices are heard, and that means somehow, some way, magically, we have a more vibrant representative republic. That's what I'm to believe. So, again, why get hung up on these distinctions between citizens and non-citizens? If we're going to be welcoming communities in a welcoming country, well then, hey, we want your voice to be heard too. So, yeah.
Well, isn't this a way of rigging elections?
Mary Kay in Western Springs, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning, you guys. Yes, I called the other day and I wanted to make this comment. The girls who are nannying around here, I'm very close to many of them because I did the job during the pandemic to make ends meet. And they are of black and brown persuasion. Most all of them are. And I brought my petition for Parents Matter Coalition.org over to the library. Many signed, which was great, but I, of course, was making sure they were legal voters. The younger girls, a lot of them not registered to vote. I want to know, where do we go today to register to vote? Do we take a field trip over to, where do you go? What is
Where
there a
do you
voter?
go? You go. You register
where do you
online.
go?
You register online. You can register at the local election authority, a DMV. You can wait till election day and same day register in Illinois.
Can I set up a table at the library and say, let's register to vote here? I'm a registered voter. Can I recruit? And
Well, if you
people
were
up in the public building?
if you're a registrar, then you could register people to vote.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I will go over there and find out what it takes to be a registrar, and then I'll set up a table somewhere around here and do it. Get the girls to vote. They all know me. They like me. They want to vote. They all wanted to sign the petition, but some of them weren't registered to vote. And
Perfect.
I said, well, let's get on to that. Exactly.
You'll be like
do the Chicago thing and sign them up anyway.
You'll be like a Western Springs ward healer. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
You guys, it's going to be great. It's going to be huge, like Trump will say.
Thanks for the call, Mary Kay. Corey in Woodlawn.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. I was thinking that, the Democrat cities are getting exactly what they want. They're getting these non-voters in there to try to change the elections in their favor. But the Republican cities and states are getting what they want. They're getting middle-class American and American companies. And that's why neither of these popular parties have the will to end this thing. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the call, Corey.
Looks like they're going to vote on February 5th. Well, the Rules Committee. That's soon.
Rusty on 90.
Yeah, so a thought on this. I'm not a citizen of Evanston. I'm a citizen of Chicago, but as long as they're allowing non-citizens
they're not.
vote,
Those are not states.
Yeah, but I'm kind of doing
countries
yet.
Here. Yeah.
Tongue in cheek.
So I'm thinking
right.
everyone else outside of Evanston perhaps can vote in their elections as well.
Oh, yeah, right. I like that.
No,
yeah,
exactly. You could say that you're identifying as a Evastonian.
No, but I mean,
and they can't. You're living your life. You're living your purpose.
Right. Well, you show up in Evanston. You with some sort of asylum paperwork, or maybe they'll grant you some sort of asylum paperwork. I mean, they should do this at the local level. I like that idea. And then, as Alderman Reed said, more voices, more voters means more voices.
I just want to be heard, is all.
Yeah, heard. Yeah. All right. Very good, Rusty.
Non-citizens voting.
Thanks for the call. Yeah, right. I want to vote. Yeah, let's see. Right. Yeah, actually, that would be great to put to the test. There's another good example of jujitsu. See if you can, maybe a intrepid Evanstonian will show up to the board meeting and offer a proposal to allow non-Evanston residents to also vote in local elections.
Yeah.
And you could give them, if they make some overture that at some point they would like to be an Evanston resident, then you give them some sort of temporary status. That's a document. And then they can vote in the Evanston local elections. I like that.
I've got a better. My mom was born there. Don't I have? My family lived there. Don't I have a right to vote?
Yeah, perhaps you could argue that there was some Jacobson land in Evanston that was stolen.
Right.
And you have a right to reclaim your land and certainly participate to make sure, again, your voice is heard.
Yeah. We helped start a church in Evanston. There you go.
Was it, were your ancestors Women's Christian Temperance Union? Was that what they were involved in?
St. Luke's. And then we took St. Luke's and started, I can't remember, in Skokie. My grandpa and grandma were part of that.
You should get lined up for one of those $20,000 housing grants, too, while you're at it.
Oh, yeah.
Scott and Aurora, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, I'm going to try to explain this to maybe see if you guys can understand where I'm coming from. But so Chicago, before they were a sanctuary city, they wanted to be a sanctuary city before they were one. It's the same thing with Evanston. I'm wondering if you know the black population of Evanston. If there's almost no black people there, what is there for reparations at this point until they start moving in, and then is there a problem?
Well, they already have reparations.
Yeah, and they thanks for the call. I mean, they have, I don't know what the percentage is of the town, but there's a significant, there's a sizable black population on the western side of Evanston.
Uh-huh.
Right?
I'm looking it up now, yes.
Yeah. Well, Carl in Big Cabin, Oklahoma.
Good morning. Hey, you might want to change that to the north of the Cheddar Curtain versus the Big Cabin.
Oh, okay.
Now, on to my point, you have so many Illinois people coming to Wisconsin and have property up there and spending time. And I think they should be asylum seekers also in Wisconsin and be allowed to vote that way, because Illinois is blue. Biden's got that. If we get those people from Illinois up into Wisconsin that have their weekend homes, all of them vote, 20, 30,000 extra votes for Biden, that'll be a lock on the election for Biden.
Yeah. I definitely, I like this. Yeah, I like what the Democrats are thinking here. Let's just, whoever is best at moving people around, whether from other countries or within country, to localities, to states that matter, wins. That's a great system. There's no borders. We don't have a border. States don't have borders. There are no election jurisdictions. Everybody just gets to move around, and it's a logistics game. This is fun. That's a way to certainly ensure more voices are heard. There's more participation, and it'll make our representative republic that much more vibrant and dynamic. Right. Sure. Bill in Cape Coral, Florida.
Yeah, I have I have a wedding dress that's up in the closet up there in my summer home by the lake, so I'm going to be voting up there.
Okay,
Very
Rahm
good, Bill.
Emanuel.
Yeah, he could not only vote in Evanston, you could be the next mayor of Evanston if you've got that wedding dress in a closet somewhere in Evanston. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There is a tremendous price war in the term life industry. Rates have dropped dramatically in the past few years. For example, a man age 45, non-smoker, $1 million of coverage, $75 per month, level rate for 10 years. Or a man age 50, non-smoker, can obtain $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of $110, level rate for 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rate for 20 years. If you're a smoker, we have great rates for you as well. At Term Busters, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. If you're looking for new or replacement term life insurance, call today for a quote at 800-275-8525. You're probably paying more than you should. Call 800-275-8525. Remember, 800-275-8525. Sample rate quotes based on preferred non-smoker underwriting exam required to qualify. That number for Term Busters is 800-275-8525. 800-275-8525.
Would you like a new home or $450,000 for only $100? You heard correctly. Gaelic Park Charities is excited to announce its $650,000 home or cash raffle. Hello, this is John Quinn, the voice of Irish sports and special events at Chicago Gaelic Park. On the 24th of March 2024, we're raffling off a new construction, two-story, single-family home located in the heart of Chicago's Mount Greenwood neighborhood. This beautiful custom home has 4 bedrooms and 2.5 baths with all the modern touches. The neighborhood has excellent schools, parks and amenities, and if you're not in the market for a new home, the winner can opt for a $450,000 cash prize instead. The proceeds of each $100 ticket benefit Gaelic Park Charities, a registered 501c3 dedicated to promoting and preserving Irish heritage and culture in Chicagoland. Purchase your tickets at ChicagoGaelicParkHouseRaffle.com. That's Chicago Gaelic, Gaelic, ParkHouseRaffle.com.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency is supposed to be devoted to the relief and human development of the Palestinians. In practice, it seems employees are far more radically committed to advancing Palestinian interests. The Wall Street Journal has just reported that approximately 1,200 of the agency's employees in Gaza are actual operatives of Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad. More than half have close relatives who belong to the terrorist organizations. It's shocking to learn that the agency has links to high levels of the U.S. government. Biden's senior director for intelligence programs on the White House National Security Council staff was an official of this pro-Palestinian U.S. agency, even as the group was providing material support to terrorism. It raises troubling questions about the administration's judgment and the information terrorist groups may have been able to glean about our intelligence capabilities.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Walgreens is racist for closing stores that have been the subject of endemic retail theft. That's Cori Bush saying that. We'll hear from her, get reaction from the capitalist pig, Jonathan Hoenig. Oh, sorry, by the way, that's Ayanna Pressley. I get my Socialist Spice Girls mixed up. Ayanna Pressley, who said that. We'll get reaction from capitalist pig, Jonathan Hoenig, at 8:08.
Cori Bush is dealing with some personal matters. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
The mayor is ending a program that puts uniformed police officers in Chicago public schools. WIND Chicago News Time is 8 o'clock.
They are simple questions. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, without a simple answer.
Mr. President, some House Republicans are calling the border deal a non-starter. Can you get it done? Mr. President, are you doing enough to try?
President Biden saying we're trying on his way into the National Prayer Breakfast with congressional leaders this morning. Some Republicans in the Senate are trying to work out a compromise on border security to stop record illegal immigration. GOP Congressman Jim Jordan tells Fox.
I think we have to put on the appropriation bills, the bills that fund the government. We have to put a simple sentence. Time out on all this. No money can be used to process or release into the country any new migrants.
There was a bill in the House that passed with Republican and Democrat support, a $79 billion tax cut plan for businesses and parents who could get a bigger child tax credit. Later today, President Biden will campaign in Michigan as a new Quinnipiac poll gives him a 6-point lead over former President Trump in a potential 2024 rematch. It also shows Trump Republican challenger Nikki Haley would beat Biden by 5 points. The U.S. has hit the Iran-backed Houthi militants again.
Central Command tells us U.S. forces struck up to 10 drones the Houthis were preparing to launch in Yemen. And the USS Carney shot down 3 Iran-made drones and an anti-ship ballistic missile in the Gulf of Aden. The group says its campaign against commercial vessels in the Red Sea and surrounding waters is a response to Israel's war on Hamas. The Houthis say they see all British and American ships as targets.
Fox's Jonathan Savage. We're still waiting for the retaliation the president says he's decided on to hit the Iran-backed militants who attacked a U.S. base in Jordan, killing 3 American soldiers. 3 people are dead in Boise, Idaho, and 9 more injured, some critically.
Investigators are still trying to determine what caused a privately owned hangar near the Boise, Idaho airport to collapse on Wednesday night. The hangar was under construction and is located on the Boise airport property.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. America's listening to Fox News.
Sunshine in Chicago, 35 degrees at 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says he supports ending the Chicago Public Schools program that puts uniformed police officers in dozens of high schools. Mayor telling the Sun-Times and the WBEZ conglomerate that he will give the Board of Ed the green light to end its contract to put uniformed personnel in schools. That decision comes on the heels of CPS and Chicago Police investigating another Chicago Public Schools student killed in a shooting, this time on the north side.
There's a vehicle that pulled up. Several individuals got out of that vehicle and fired weapons in the direction of these individuals, striking all 3.
CPD Superintendent Larry Snelling says Davion Gibson was struck in the chest, taken to an area hospital where the 16-year-old died. Another 16-year-old and a 15-year-old were also hospitalized with gunshot wounds. Authorities say it was a traffic dispute after an accident in Dalton that erupted in gunfire. 4 taken to the area hospitals after being shot around 10 a.m. yesterday. Progressives and Democrats will try again to keep former President Donald Trump off Illinois' primary ballot. Now the fight shifts to state court. The case will ultimately be resolved by action forthcoming at the U.S. Supreme Court. The Bulls have won 2 of 3, taking down the Hornets 117-110. Last night, Northwestern lost to Purdue in overtime, 105-96. The news a service of the AM 560 store, T-shirts, hoodies, and more from your favorite AM 560 brands, including Proft University. 8:04 time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now, the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Royal Caribbean reported a mixed quarter, but the cruise company is upbeat about this year and the stock is higher. It made a profit in the recent quarter after losing money in the period a year before. Merck shares are lower, even though its earnings topped estimates. Volvo has decided it won't provide further funding to Polestar, the electric car company it created with its China-based owner, Geely. Shell is buying back $3.5 billion in stock and will raise its dividend by 20%. Its annual profit declined last year, but by less than the market had expected. Stocks plunged yesterday after Fed Chair Jerome Powell indicated a March interest rate cut does not appear likely. The Bank of England this morning followed the Fed, taking no action on interest rates. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Coselda, invested in you.
8:05 and a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Charlie Kirk doesn't see work from the RNC.
The RNC and the regime, they're lazy and complacent. They don't want to be excellent. They don't want to flourish. They don't want to be great. And that culture is all throughout the RNC. They just are kind of okay with being mediocre. They're not trying to be the best version of themselves. They're not hustling. There's a lot of people that just want to work in politics.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Author, psychologist, and professor Dr. Jordan B. Peterson is coming to the Chicago Theater on February 12th with his highly anticipated We Who Wrestle with God tour. The best-selling author of 12 Rules for Life and Beyond Order has sold out more than 400 venues, and his online programs have helped tens of thousands of people. Tickets are on sale now at livenation.com.
Feel like you're trying to push a boulder uphill wearing skates? If you run or manage a local business today, you're challenged like never before. We get it, and we want to help. We're Salem Surround. We're a full-service marketing agency that'll help you increase your customer base by designing incredibly effective plans to reach your consumers day, night, and everywhere they might be.
If you're a local business and want to see what Salem Surround can do for you, visit surroundchicago.com. Remember to visit surroundchicago.com today.
Sick and tired of achy joints? Dread the idea of surgery? Well, you need to call QC Kinetics. Hi, it's Amy Jacobson. Listen, the state of healthcare is always changing. The old ideas like steroids, cortisone shots, surgery are no longer your only options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative, non-surgical, drug-free treatments that deliver lasting results. Knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain from arthritis or injury? Well, don't let this pain keep you from living your best. QC Kinetics advanced state-of-the-art treatments harness and direct your body's natural ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. Make 2024 the year you reclaim your mobility and independence. Walk and run, play and live. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. New locations, folks, in Crystal Lake and Gurnee. Call 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
Hey, to social engineering and leftist corporations, do they make you feel like we're kind of living in the twilight zone? Well, you're not alone. Now, our friends at Pure Talk, my wireless company, they know the silent majority is fed up, and I'm calling on all of those Americans, stand with a company that champions your values. The average family is saving almost $1,000 a year. Dial pound 250, say the keyword SAVE now. Do it now. You'll save an additional 50% off your first month from our friends at Pure Talk.
If you have a bank account, pay attention. Your savings could be at risk. The U.S. banking system is once again under extreme stress. This jeopardizes you and your family. But there is an easy way to protect yourself. Gold. Contact Noble Gold Investments today and safeguard your family's financial future. As a thank you for opening a qualified account, they'll give you a free quarter-ounce gold standard coin. Visit NobleGoldInvestments.com. NobleGoldInvestments.com. Gold. Safety for uncertain times.
It's 8:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Kennedy inbound, 55 minutes. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. You'll find delays, stop-and-go traffic inbound on the Ike, 17th to Ashland. It's a 65-minute trip from 390 into the old post office. Delays on the Jane Addams due to an accident. Left lane blocked eastbound between Barrington Road to right before Roselle Road, the site of the accident. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Today, times of clouds and sun. A high today 50, cloudy tonight, low 35, and then cloudy, cooler day tomorrow, the high only 40. Sunny to partly cloudy for Saturday, high Saturday at 44. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
35 and sunshine at O'Hare. Your next news 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy and Ayanna Presley, Frances Parker Spice of the Socialist Spice Girls.
Oh, yes.
One of our exports, Ayanna Presley, attended Francis Parker High School. Now she's a congresswoman from Massachusetts, just like the mayor of Boston, Barrington High School.
Yeah.
Now she's effectively a Socialist Spice Girl who's the mayor of Boston by way of Barrington High School and then Harvard. Doing a great job distributing the leftist diaspora from Chicago. Yeah, well, so she took to the House floor, did Ayanna Presley, because she has beef with Walgreens. Apparently they've closed a store or two in her district, and you know why they did it?
Oh, because of crime.
No, because they're racist.
Oh,
Mr. Speaker,
right.
Walgreens is planning to close yet another pharmacy in the Massachusetts 7th, this time on Warren Street in Roxbury, a community that is 85% Black and Latino. This closure is a part of a larger trend of abandoning low-income communities like the previous closures in Mattapan and Hyde Park, both in the Massachusetts 7th. When a Walgreens leaves a neighborhood, they disrupt the entire community, and they take with them baby formula, diapers, asthma inhalers, life-saving medications, and of course, jobs. These closures are not arbitrary and they are not innocent. They are life-threatening acts of racial and economic discrimination. That is why I joined with Senator Markey and Warren to demand answers from Walgreens CEO. Why was there no community input, no adequate notice to customers, and no transition resources to prevent gaps in health care? Shame on you, Walgreens. Having a website with talking points about health equity and underserved communities is not enough. Walgreens is a multi-billion-dollar corporation that needs to put their money where their mouth is and stop divesting from Black and brown communities.
Yeah. How about
there
that?
You go. Yeah.
How about, hey, Walgreens execs, how you like the people you align with all your health equity babble? Yeah, because Ayanna Presley and Senator Krakajawea and Markey, they got your back, right? Yeah, you're allowed to close your business. Well, you're allowed to close your business when we say you can close your business, and if you don't, basically distribute some cash to make people temporarily whole. I don't know what she wants exactly, including here the politicians, make them look good. Got to give us something. Got to extort your way out of business in our district. If you don't do that, then we're going to hold you up as racists and bigots and so forth.
I mean, Whole Foods closed in Inglewood. Are they racist?
According to Diana Presley, probably they are. Yeah. How do you like that? Uh-huh. By the way, just a question. Was Walgreens also racist when they located the store they're closing in that neighborhood? Or they just became racist when they decided to close it because it didn't make economic sense to keep it open?
I mean, does she know Walgreens is a for-profit company? I mean, it's not a charity.
For more on this and other topics economic, we're pleased to be joined by the capitalist pig, Jonathan Hoenig. He is also a Fox News contributor and co-publisher of the recently released Can You Really Love a Dog? Leonard Peikoff and Ayn Rand on Pets. Jonathan Hoenig is a very interesting character, isn't he? Capitalist big Jonathan Hoenig, you're on. Thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Great to be with you, Dan. I'm freaking offended by that. I mean, to call an organization racist like that, I mean, that's a really serious, I think, disgusting accusation, especially, Amy, as you said. I mean, look, they are closing these stores. Companies are closing stores because they are unprofitable and because the areas are ridden with crime. How can they expect them to stay open, to be burglarized, week after week after week? And, the politicians, instead of haranguing Walgreens, maybe they should work on fixing the crime that's prompting so many of these businesses to leave.
It's not even safe for the employees. She's harping about, people are left unemployed. Those employees weren't safe working at those stores.
Yeah, I mean, really tremendously offensive. And, of course, talk about having an impact on jobs, having an impact on real estate values. Look, we've seen this death spiral in San Francisco, which is basically empty. If you've walked through downtown Chicago, it's increasingly empty. And, this is not a result of greedy corporate businesses. They're the ones who want to open up on these avenues and boulevards across the country in the major cities. The leftist policies that are driving up the crime and driving out not just the businesses, but the affluent Americans and the affluent citizens who live and work there.
So UPS announced they're laying off 12,000 people. This was after, just a few months removed from the headlines about the union negotiated better pay and hours, and after a tough, protracted negotiation, another union victory, and then you turn around. Okay, well, here's your union victory. Now we got to cut $1 billion from our bottom line, so that means 12,000 people go. PayPal is also cutting 10% of its workforce, I saw. So as we were talking about with Steve Moore yesterday, that's all good news to Jay Powell, because isn't that what Jay Powell wanted? We need to see 5-6 million Americans put out of work so we get inflation down.
Well, Dan, he wants to see inflation down, and his goal is 2%. But you're absolutely spot on. That what we're seeing more and more is exactly that. Pretty significant job losses. And it's not just some of those companies, and UPS, and also a lot of the high-tech companies that are shedding jobs. It's just the economy writ large. Interesting number out yesterday, what they call private payroll growth. The market had expected 158 new thousands added. Jobs added, only about 100,000 new jobs added in the first month of 2024. So, one of the two things holding up the economy for basically years now has been consumer spending and jobs. And given the record amount of debt now being held by Americans and the slowing job market, there's indications that the economy writ large is really starting to fade.
Speaking of unions, I just have to get this story in because it's just so much fun. Gregory Pratt, who fundraises from the people that he covers, but that's not a violation of journalistic ethics anymore. This is a historic day. The Chicago Tribune newsroom is walking out on strike for 24 hours because they've been trying to fight for a fair contract. The Guild to the Chicago Tribune has been trying to fight for a fair contract since 2018, blah, blah, blah. And Gregory Pratt posts on Twitter, "Don't read the paper or website tomorrow." Well, I haven't read it for years, but now I'm going to read it today. Yeah, well, now I see a spike in readership for the Chicago Tribune. I mean,
they already put out a Chicago Tribune blast, though. When they're saying don't read it, because they send a blast out every day. They put it out. I thought they were going to not put it out today.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, these journalists, I mean, this is great. The union and boy, Alden might by rethinking their acquisition, and they're going to rally at 560 West Grand this morning too. Boy, a rally of journalists. I can't wait to see the groundswell of support to rally with the Chicago Tribune Guild members. Jonathan, unionization just generally, and please feel free to pile on with the ridicule.
Well, Dan, look, the irony is unionization is down. It's actually down. Unions had a lot of so-called victories last year. I don't know what kind of a victory it is if people end up, as you're pointing out, losing their job. But unions had some victories last year. At the same time, union membership is near an all-time low in this country. More and more Americans realize that long-term union membership does not benefit them, whether it's the automakers, whether it's the airlines, and certainly the public sector, education sector. It's been harder and harder the more unions have got involved. In fact, that's the only place that union membership, Dan and Amy, is growing within the public sector, and that's what really worries me long-term. I mean, we're seeing the pension prices pile up. We're seeing the obligations for municipal governments pile up, and a lot of it has to do with unreasonable contracts brought on by public sector unions.
So I want to go back to just Jay Powell for just a second, because we sort of dancing around it, but I want to get your reaction to the market's reaction to him essentially saying we're not going to be ready to start cutting rates in March as people had hoped, and what that portends for the next couple of quarters.
Yeah, well, Dan, I have to say I've been wrong about the economy. I've been very nervous, given so many of the economic indicators, and the economy has been relatively strong. But look, you have to look at the long term when it comes to these things. And even back to the 1970s, Gerald Ford thought that they had inflation licked back in 1974, 1975. Of course, under Carter, it roared up again pretty dramatically and really didn't start coming down back until the early part of the early 1980s. So I think Powell is right to be on guard with inflation. The truth is that the average American, Dan and Amy, which is the economy. We talk about the economy like it's some spreadsheet out there. This is average everyday Americans. More and more, the job market is getting scarce. And simply the fact that numbers coming down, Dan, isn't being reflected in everyday Americans' lives. We're still spending on average about $10,000 to $12,000 more a year on just the everyday costs of goods and services than we did 2 years ago. That's real money for Americans who might only make $50,000 or $60,000.
So have we avoided a recession?
I don't think
TBD.
so. I mean, for one thing, Amy, the average American has been in a recession. Even though that they haven't called it in Washington, D.C., we've got a record number of what they call hardship withdrawals from people's 401ks. So record debt, record hardship withdrawals. Americans are hurting. I'm glad the president's taking a victory lap, but I worry about the next couple of years, given the amount of spending and the amount of economic damage that's already been done.
Well, we've spent a lot of time over the last several months talking about food prices, the price at the pump. You just mentioned goods and services. How about your cost of living in terms of your home and rents in terms of the trying to finance the spike in rents in this country?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, Dan. There was a stat out this week, actually. Half of renters in the United States now can't afford. They cannot afford to pay their rent. Rents have been surging. The average median rent is about $1,713. It's down about $400 from November, but it's still up 22% from just 2 years ago. So you've got record home prices, which is good for those who own, but at the same time, record rent prices. And Dan, just record prices, especially for goods and services. If you've got a child, you're spending on average of $18,000 a year. Some Americans, about a quarter, are spending over $36,000 a year. You could basically get a college degree for that amount. So you've got so many of those household expenses, despite the fact that maybe your eggs and butter are coming down, continue to climb.
All right, I have to ask you about this new book.
Yes.
Essentially the objectivist perspective on pet ownership, which I'm intrigued by. So the book is "Can You Really Love a Dog?" Leonard Peikoff and Ayn Rand on pets, and the intro is by you. And give us some sort of fascinating insight about the intersection between objectivism and loving your dog.
Sure, Dan. I mean, look, well, the fascinating thing is year after year, every year, our love with our pets, continues seemingly to grow. And you see that by spending on pets. I mean, no matter what the economy, Americans spend more and more on their pets every year. And pets become a bigger and bigger part of our lives. So, people think of Ayn Rand and objectivism as this mean old woman who didn't love anything. Just the opposite is true. Ayn Rand valued her pets dramatically. She loved her pets just like her number one student, Leonard Peikoff, loves his dog, and so many of us do. But what makes that love of our animals unique? What makes it special than, for example, our love of our children or our family or our friends? So this book delves into that, the philosophical genesis, if you will, of our relationship and our love with animals. So whether you've got a dog, a cat, or thinking about getting one, this is going to be a book that's going to strengthen your relationship. Can you really love a dog? Leonard Peikoff and Ayn Rand on pets. It's at Amazon.com.
Do you have a dog?
Yeah.
I have a dog I love very much. And you know what? It's a selfish relationship, Amy. I mean, here's why. It's like if you're petting your dog and then you realize, all right, I got to go up and, do my homework or something. The dog doesn't hold it against you. The dog says, all right, that's it. No hard feelings. We have this wonderfully selfish relationship with our animals. They tell you what they want. We tell them what we want, and we love them even more.
See, I mean, everything is analyzed through objectivism. I love it. See, you see what he did there, Amy. He just worked in Ayn Rand's virtue of selfishness into the discussion about can you really love a dog. I mean,
would you want a dog that said, look, I really don't feel like being pet right now, but God, I'm going to come over. No, you want a dog that loves you for who you are, and our animals really do. I mean, your animals don't love you just because you feed them. They love you for the unique language you speak, the unique games that you play, that we develop a really unusual relationship that's different from anyone else in our family. So can you really love a dog? We answer that question in the book.
I got to tell you, but your dogs let you know if they want something. And if I'm on my phone, Big Bubba Bear will paw my hand until I put that phone down and give him loving with both hands. Isn't it weird?
That's why you need to have a tranquilizer gun at the ready.
Stop it, Dan.
Well, I mean, ask you, Amy, if one of the questions we ask in the book is that they call the trolley problem or the trolley issue. I mean, if you saw your dog was drowning and a stranger was drowning, look, we're talking about a human being here and your dog. Who would you save if you could only save one?
Not hard.
Come on.
Not easy. No, I mean,
don't make
easy.
me go on record, but that's a difficult decision to make.
Yeah, I mean, and most people would say exactly that. If a human being, if a stranger, maybe perhaps if a child was drowning and their dog, they'd save their dogs. It says so much about the really true, valuable relationships we have with them.
I'd save my children first.
Well, that's wonderful. So with respect to Rand, let me guess the pets that Ayn Rand owned.
Oh, boy.
She owned cockatiel. And I'm going to say...
He hasn't read the book yet because it's still on his desk at work.
I'm going to say ferrets.
No, she was a cat.
Of course she was.
In fact, Dan, there was a special on in the early 1970s with a character, kind of a Carol Baskin, who lived out in the forest or lived out in the rural area with a bunch of cats. And Ayn Rand turned to an associate and said, if I wasn't a philosopher living in the city, that would be me right now. And we've all had that, those of us who are pet lovers think, oh, I'd love to live on a farm with, 3 or 4 or 5 big dogs. So, Rand loved her pets. And in fact, there's a scene in the book that, tells out what happens when her beloved cat was dying. And she looks to the vet and she says, doctor, why me? Why my cat? We've all had that experience, even if you're a world-renowned philosopher. So it makes that relationship we have with our pets so important. And that's what Can You Really Love a Dog is about.
All right. The closest that an objectivist will come to sentimentality. Jonathan Hoenig, founding member of the Capitalist Big Hedge Fund, Fox News contributor, co-publisher of the recently released Can You Really Love a Dog? Leonard Peikoff and Ayn Rand on pets. Cap Pig, Jonathan Hoenig, thank you.
Thanks. All right, be well.
You too, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Larry Nora, founder and CEO of You Store It, a network of award-winning self-storage facilities in the Chicago area, and a customer of Signature Bank. We've developed over 70 storage centers throughout the city and suburbs, and our business continues to grow. We need a bank who understands the neighborhoods and communities where we are making investments. We found that in Signature Bank. They know this city and its neighborhoods because they are based right here in Chicago. Finding a local banking institution like Signature Bank has been critical to the success of You Store It, and we look forward to a long-term relationship.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Have you saved enough? What are you going to do with Social Security? What will your taxes look like in retirement? Scott Tucker believes retirement planning should be easy, and you should be able to get all the information you need in one place. That's why Scott created the Retirement Decoded Toolkit, a comprehensive resource for your retirement. In it, you'll find a copy of his latest book, Escape Illinois: Should I Stay or Should I Go? This book will provide insight on taxes, Social Security, income, and more. To get your free Retirement Decoded Toolkit, text KIT, K-I-T, to 847-474-3888, or go to retirementdecoded.com. Now, in addition to the book, you'll also receive resources on retirement's most common concerns. Get your Retirement Decoded Toolkit from Scott Tucker right now by texting KIT to 847-474-3888, or go to retirementdecoded.com. Investment advisory products and services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC. A registered investment advisor, this is a paid placement.
Structural foundation problems? Permaseal can help. Hi, I'm Roy Spencer, president of Permaseal. Last year's severe drought has homeowners across Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana experiencing symptoms of structural foundation issues. Cracked brickwork or caulking, uneven floors, new cracks in the drywall or ceiling, doors or windows that no longer open or shut properly, or basement walls that are leaning or bowing. All of these can be signs of a structural foundation issue. Too often we hear of homeowners paying for an expensive consultation just to determine the problem. Don't be one of them. Call Permaseal today at 800-421-SEAL. Our certified structural consultants will thoroughly evaluate your foundation and offer you a permanent solution at absolutely no charge. Life's frustrating enough. Let's fix what we can and avoid even bigger problems. Call Permaseal today, 800-421-7325, or visit permaseal.net.
Known best for being better, Permaseal.
AM 560, The Answer.
By the way, you know what the true objectivist answer would be to the question of a dog and a human, your dog and a human, stranger are drowning, and who do you save?
What?
So you would consider the competing days of life lost between the human and the dog, and you would make essentially the utilitarian decision based on how much life would you actually be saving based on the projected life expectancy of the dog versus the human.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
And in that time, I could have grabbed the safety ring and thrown it out to my
exactly.
dog.
Well, now I want people to be prepared in case this
Right.
occurrence happens. Yes.
All right. Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Coming up at 8:38, we'll talk to our friend Rafael Mangual from Manhattan Institute and City Journal. The enduring solution to crime will be the discussion. Of course, we don't need to really discuss that much here because Brandon Johnson's policies, J.B. Pritzker's policies, are working, as we're told. But we'll discuss it anyway at 8:38.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
8:32, sunshine and 36 degrees this morning, headed for a high near 50. 2 children and their mother and 3 police officers are among 12 badly hurt after a corrosive substance was thrown on that family in South London. The House is passing a $78 billion tax package that includes an expanded child tax credit.
On this vote, the yeas are 357, the nays are 70. 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Also on Capitol Hill, Mark Zuckerberg apologizing to parents whose children may have been harmed by Instagram. Zuckerberg was one of 5 CEOs from top social media companies grilled by the U.S. Senate Wednesday. An atmospheric river of wind and rain slamming Northern California. Flash flooding is a risk. High winds, power outages, landslides are all possible. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson says he's backing ending the Chicago Public School program that puts uniformed police officers in high schools. The mayor telling the Sun-Times and the WBEZ conglomerate that he will give the board the green light to end its contract to put uniformed personnel in schools. Authorities say a traffic dispute after an accident in Dalton erupted into gunfire. 4 were taken to the hospital after being shot. Chicago, now the largest city in the country, calling for a ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas terrorists in Gaza. City Council approving a controversial ceasefire resolution that increases the divide between the council and the city's Jewish community.
I'm voting no today because of the divisive process that I was worried was disrespectful to some of the members of those communities, but also with the disrespect among colleagues.
Alderman Scott Waguespack, Mayor Brandon Johnson cast the tie-breaking vote following heated debate. The Bulls beat the Hornets 117-110. College hoops, Northwestern gave Purdue all it could handle, but lost in overtime at Mackey Arena 105-96. The news, a service of Salem Surround, a local digital marketing agency. Go to surroundchicago.com today. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka puts it simply.
3 of our servicemen are dead thanks to an Iranian drone strike, and 40 are in hospital. This is the cost, the real cost in terms of human life, of having people who hate America running America. It's really that simple.
America First with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Brothers and sisters in Christ, as we navigate the challenges of our time, it's crucial to stand firm in our faith and uphold the values that have shaped our nation. The Bible teaches us the importance of faith, family, and freedom. In Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6, we're reminded to trust in the Lord with all our hearts and to lean not on our own understanding. AMAC, like us, values faith as a guiding principle in our lives and in the decisions that shape our nation. As Christians, we cherish the freedom to worship, to live our lives in accordance with our faith. AMAC advocates for policies that safeguard our religious liberties, ensuring that future generations can continue to exercise their faith without fear. Join us in this mission to preserve the biblical values that make our nation strong. Visit amac.us/faith and let your voice be heard. That's amac.us/faith.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I've just been doing great, and I just feel like it's a definite advantage to take them. Let me just say one other thing. I mentioned to my doctor that I was taking Balance of Nature, and they said they were very positive about that. And they said that was really good. That's a good product, and so I've been very pleased.
Step into the new year with a new you. Start your journey to better health by calling 1-800-246-8751 or by going to balanceofnature.com and signing up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Hurry, this is your last chance to take advantage of this offer. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Listen up. Do you or a family member or friend have an outstanding student loan and don't know where to turn or how much you're required to pay? The rules around student loan forgiveness have never been as complex as they are right now. The wrong decision could cost you and your family tens of thousands of dollars in unnecessary loan payments. Attorney Ray Kaplan at Kaplan Law Firm is here to help you make the right decision. And they recently saved a radio listener over $145,000. Kaplan Law knows the rules, knows the laws, knows the regulations, and loopholes inside out. Don't pay another cent until you've consulted with attorney Ray Kaplan. Call today to schedule a phone or in-person consultation. Call Kaplan Law Firm at 312-294-8989. That's 312-294-8989. Or visit financialrelief.com and click on Contact. Financialrelief.com, click on Contact. Kaplan Law Firm, 25 East Washington Street in Chicago.
8:38. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of Progressive Insurance. Progressive Insurance makes it easy to save money when you bundle your auto policy with home, condo, or renters. You'll earn a multi-policy discount. Easy to bundle, easy to save. Visit progressive.com. Kennedy inbound at 1 solid hour right now from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. We're watching the Ike, North Avenue to the Tri-State really slow, 65 into the old post office. Stevenson inbound right now at an hour 8. Inbound between Harlem and the Ryan, you're jammed up, and into DuSable Lakeshore Drive again, well over an hour. Dan Ryan at 30 minutes, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. DuSable Lakeshore Drive, due to an accident southbound, is jammed up between Lawrence and Belmont. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Clouds and sun today, high 50. Low clouds overnight and a low of 35. Right now, partly cloudy and 36. Your next news update is at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues now on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So as we discussed a bit earlier in the program, another high school shooting, a shooting involving high school victims, second in 2 weeks, this outside of Sun High School, where 3 kids were shot, one 16-year-old dead, targeted shooting. It was enough for BLM Brandon to actually show up and address the issue, and this is what he said.
The loss of life is horrific under all circumstances, but it is especially harsh when our young people are targeted
by other young people, ostensibly, he went on.
We're not going to allow these acts of terror to disrupt our livelihoods. My children will be in school tomorrow, and children across this city will be in schools tomorrow. And we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that our young people are safe.
And a police source confirmed with me. I mean, we knew it was a targeted shooting, but it was gangbangers retaliating against other gangbangers.
Yeah. Well, something else, too. We're going to do everything in our power to ensure that our kids are safe. And then, as Mike Scott's been reporting all morning, word has come down that he is opposed to the police presence in CPS schools.
Right. He's been like that the whole time.
So
it's ridiculous.
So they say we're gonna. You heard the police chief Snelling say we're gonna have more presence at this school and CPS schools, and then the mayor says the opposite in the next breath.
I know they don't want police in the schools; they want them outside of the schools. But why not do both? We used to have officers in the school, and they were great. I loved them, and they were a great resource. And they were, police became villainized during BLM, and they never got their reputation back.
Well, here's the good news. The good news, as we have been told by BLM Brandon and Governor Jelly Belly, is that their policies are working, that violence is on the wane. And so, as he said yesterday outside of Sun High School, let's just get back to business. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Rafael Mangual, Senior Fellow and the Head of Research for the Manhattan Institute's Policing and Public Safety Initiative. also the author of the book Criminal Injustice, What the Push for Mass Decarceration and Depolicing Gets Wrong and Who It Hurts Most. Raphael, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me back.
So just on the matter, since it's topical, of police and police presence in schools, particularly schools in urban centers that have a higher incidence of violent crime in the neighborhoods that surround them, what's your reaction to this sort of confused policy emanating from City Hall in Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, there's a large body of research that tells us very clearly that expanding police presence reduces crime, particularly through the mechanism of deterrence. There's no reason to think that that wouldn't also be true in and around our schools. What these activists do is that they hang their hats on these viral incidents where a school resource officer happens to use physical force against a student on camera, and it doesn't look good, and they use that to smear the entire enterprise. And they say, well, this is a common occurrence. We have to therefore protect our kids from the real threat, which are the school resource officers. And so we should take these bias agents of the state, these occupiers, off campus. The reality, of course, is that the data don't support that narrative at all. I mean, in New York City, for example, a school resource officer is actually more likely to be injured by a student than a student is to be injured by a school resource officer. And so it's just part and parcel of the broader debate about policing and criminal justice. There's a lot of incoherence on the left, right? You'll hear people on the left say, we can't arrest our way out of a crime problem. But, in the gun control debate, we'll say that, we can absolutely regulate ourselves out of this problem. They say, that we need more gun rules, but, when it comes time for enforcement, they're nowhere to be found in the courtrooms. So, yeah, I've stopped trying to sort of reconcile the positions of the urban American left, and have just sort of resolved to point out where they're wrong.
And it's so frustrating too, because when they show those videos of resource officers taking down a student, they don't show what happened before the takedown, like the reason up to that. So, in your estimates, what's the best solution to crime in the short term?
The same things that's proven to be a solution to crime in the short term throughout American history, and that is a combination of policing, aggressive prosecution, and healthy doses of incarceration, targeted particularly at the people who are most likely to drive the most serious kinds of crimes and or who are engaging in other kinds of crimes at significantly high rates. Right? And it's not really that hard, particularly in cities like Chicago, to sort of figure out who those folks are. I mean, the police officers know, right? We see it all the time. I mean, one of my favorite accounts to follow on Twitter is CWB Chicago, which just does an absolutely fantastic job of documenting these cases where you have example after example of individuals who have 10, 20, 30, 100 prior arrests. How about we start there? How about, it becomes impossible to rack up 50 arrests in a 5-year period in the city of Chicago because long before that point, we actually put somebody behind bars for a number of years. That's really the combination that is at the root of any solution. The sort of I can't even really think of the right word for it, but the hubris of people like Brandon Johnson to think that they can solve the crime problem through some new novel way that's going to, eliminate problems that have proven to be intractable, like poverty and unemployment and, disinvestment, but they're just going to spend their way out of this problem. There's no evidence for this whatsoever. The idea that they have figured out, A, what the root causes of crime are, and B, a scalable way to address those root causes in the short term is nonsense. Nobody has that answer. And yet the public continues to give him enough of a pass that, people like Johnson get away with it.
Enforcement of the law against habitual criminals. God, that is just crazy enough to work, I think.
Wild?
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to get your take on something else, too, since you sort of, you're as you say, you've resigned yourself to just pointing out where the urban left is wrong and distilling their misunderstandings. We had this state legislator introduced legislation this week that was making the rounds. He's sort of walked away from it now because of the public response, but it gives you an idea of the mentality. This is the same legislator who was the lead sponsor of the SAFETY Act, the end of cash bail in Illinois. And his latest and greatest proposal was to essentially eliminate police traffic stops by eliminating moving violations short of a DUI. So speeding, taillight, registration, all that, just gone. There's no penalties for those things, so there's no need for any police stops. So what's the sort of the underlying premises of somebody who would introduce legislation like that? I mean, that seems to be like a good representative of the mentality that is afflicting urban centers.
Yeah, I mean, well, these are people who don't know anything about crime and how it actually works, right? I mean, the rationale for something like that will be like, I can imagine him already saying this. Well, we already have really serious problems in this city, and we don't need police wasting their time on traffic enforcement. They should be spending their time on pursuing, violent criminals and closing the gap on the clearance rate for serious crimes. What people like that don't understand is that there's an overlap between the people who engage in low-level offending, including traffic violations, and the people who engage in really serious crime. I mean, I don't know what the stats are in the city of Chicago, but I can tell you that in New York, some 40% of all gun arrests originate as traffic stops. Gee, it actually turns out that if people break the law and you stop them for it, sometimes you discover that they're breaking other laws, more serious ones. And God knows how many traffic stops end up, with the police officer discovering an open warrant or somebody who's wanted for some reason in the car. Right? They just don't understand the elements of a broader enforcement program that is absolutely necessary for tackling the serious violence problem in cities like Chicago, New York, LA.
I just say, look at Timothy McVeigh. I mean, they pulled him over because he had an expired plate, and he was the Oklahoma City bomber. So I'm glad it's going nowhere.
These individuals would have the public lose out on all the benefits associated with those programs. Oh, and by the way, research shows time and again that keeping police involved in traffic enforcement actually reduces traffic fatalities and injuries. It turns out that people also respond to the very same incentives on the street with respect to, more conventional forms of crime when they see police in the same way that they do on the highway. So, there really isn't any kind of coherent case for doing this other than, saying, well, look, I'm serving the interests of the radical left here that ultimately wants to defund or dismantle or abolish the police, but I'm not willing to go that far, so I'm just going to throw them yet another bone and, let the bodies pile up on the side because no one's actually going to hold me accountable.
Rafael Mangual, Senior Fellow, Head of Research for the Manhattan Institute of Policing and Public Safety, that initiative. Also the author of Criminal Injustice, What the Push for Mass Decarceration and Depolicing Gets Wrong and Who It Hurts Most. Rafael, thanks as always.
Thank you.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
It's a new year, and that means New Year's resolutions. Hi, Amy Jacobson here, and if one of your New Year's resolutions was to do more to help others, then we want to let you know that you still have the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of children in Latin America and the Caribbean through Food for the Poor. Your donation of just $80 provides food for an entire year for 2 children. That's life-changing. Just because the Christmas season is over, that doesn't mean that the need has gone away. Food for the Poor is a faith-based organization that works with partners on the ground to make sure these children are fed. We talk a lot about the root causes of our immigration crisis, and one of those causes is the situation in many of these countries. This is your chance to help take care of others. To make a donation of any amount, just visit 560theanswer.com/food for the poor. That's 560theanswer.com/food for the poor. Thanks again for your generosity.
All right. When you have chronic pain, like pain in your knees or your elbows or your back or your hip, you're miserable. And guess what? The people around you, they're miserable too because you're not happy. So listen up. There's a way to get rid of that pain without cortisone, without those steroid shots that don't work. You have more options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative, non-surgical, drug-free treatments that deliver lasting results. Folks, this works. That knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain from arthritis or an injury, don't let this pain keep you from living your best. QC Kinetics advanced state-of-the-art treatments harness and direct your body's own natural ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. Folks, this is a revolutionary approach that can give you long-term relief with no downtime. So here's what you do. Call this number to get a free consultation. They have new locations in Crystal Lake and Gurnee. The number to call, 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955 and get your life back.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Frank Vance, co-owner of Egan Vance Insurance Agency on Chicago's Northwest Side and a customer of Signature Bank. In my line of work, we pride ourselves on being there for our clients when they need it the most, and we recognize when someone does the same for us. As Egan Vance was expanding, we wanted to buy a much sought-after building in the neighborhood. We couldn't waste any time. I called Signature Bank, and that was all it took. I didn't have to talk to multiple people in siloed departments with multiple forms to fill out. One call did it all. As the one who was always looking out for my clients, it was a great change to know that my bank, Signature Bank, was looking out for me.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
And I've just been doing great, and I just feel like it's a definite advantage to take them. Let me just say one other thing. I mentioned to my doctor that I was taking Balance of Nature, and they said they were very positive about that. And they said that was really good. That's a good product. And so I've been very pleased.
Step into the new year with a new you. Start your journey to better health by calling 1-800-246-8751 or by going to balanceofnature.com and signing up as a new preferred customer to get 35% off your first order, plus a free fiber and spice supplement with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Hurry, this is your last chance to take advantage of this offer. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this exclusive holiday offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
Do the proposed tax and estate planning changes have you concerned about your future? The time to prepare is right now. Take advantage of a no-obligation conversation with a member of the Wealth Management Group team. It's a complimentary conversation focused solely on you, your goals, and how changes can impact your family's future. Call 833-WMG-PLAN or visit investwithwmg.com.
Securities and financial planning offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC.
This is Dennis Prager. I am excited to announce the all-new Pragertopia Plus. You can listen to my show whenever it's convenient for you, all commercial-free and all on demand. Now with Prager Plus, search topics, guests, and segments all the way back to 2010. And now a truly exciting new benefit. My monthly online video get-together for Pragertopia Plus members only. This is where for an hour each month, Pragertopia Plus members get an exclusive chance to ask me anything. That's right, anything. It's on video. I'll be talking to you and answering your questions. We may even have a special guest every now and then. I've never done this. Submit your questions for me at Pragertopia.com. This is only available to Pragertopia Plus members. This is our chance to connect like never before. Go to Pragertopia.com or click the banner at DennisPrager.com.
You're smart, you're busy, and don't have time to waste on the mainstream media cycle. Salem News Channel breaks that cycle. Topics that matter from hosts worth watching. Dinesh D'Souza, Andrew Wilkow, Brandon Tatum, and more. Open debate and free speech you won't find anywhere else. Salem News Channel, not like the other guys. Watch anytime on any screen, free 24/7. Find everything you need to know at snc.tv. That's snc.tv.
The Your Daily Prayer podcast provides timeless truths from God's Word to guide you through every day. Prayers for your hardest days and happiest ones. Prayers for when you wake up and when you lay down. We want to help you experience a richer prayer life today. Download Your Daily Prayer podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Or go to yourdailyprayer.com. That's yourdailyprayer.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Hey, Dan, we got a text message. Paige from Evanston. Evanston went into a free fall when they shut down the keg. Time to wake up and get out.
I remember the keg. I was there. I was at Northwestern when the keg was still in operation.
Oh, yeah.
Wanted to get to this, the big announcement that Biden, a year later, after the train derailment and chemical spill, is going to be heading to East Palestine, Ohio at some point. Here's local business owner DJ Yoakley on the president's pending visit.
The American people have awakened to realize that the leader of our country did not show up to the greatest catastrophe of 2023. And now he's going to show up because it is an election year. And obviously the polls show that President Trump came and supported us when he didn't have to. And I think we saw right through it from the beginning. And not to make it political, because I will support any president that serves our country, because otherwise it's like, again, I've said on your program before, it's like rooting against your favorite team's quarterback just to see the backup. It's a scenario where we know what he's doing. The American people see it, and now it's, hey, we have to go visit East Palestine because we haven't done that yet and check it off the books.
Yeah, and a better, stronger leader already visited that town, and that's Trump. Boom.
Boom.
All right. Thanks to Justin
Boom goes
Kosick
the dynamite.
Yes. Justin Kosick and Quinn McCarthy. Today, enjoy your sunshine and very warm weather, a high of 50 degrees. It is now 9 a.m. WIND Chicago.
We'll never forget their sacrifice and service to the country. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what President Biden just said about the 3 American soldiers killed in the attack on a U.S. base in Jordan.
Jill and I will be tomorrow at Dover Air Force Base to receive the dignified transfer of their bodies.